today with Charlie Freak. How are you doing, Charlie?
Good. How are you doing, Billy?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks again for joining me. You're in Mexico at present, yeah?
Yes. We live about half an hour south of Cuernavaca, and that's kind of in the sort of center of Mexico, about an hour and a half north of Acapulco, and we're up here in the mountains, in just beautiful green valleys, and and then when we got here, we ran into all these animals. That's what you're hearing. Collywog will get on top of them in a sec, and
it's Colleen, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so Colleen. So people know he calls his partner Collywog, but her name's Colleen.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And she'll get on.
You've got an animal sanctuary there.
We do. Just necessary. It wasn't anything, we certainly didn't plan to do it, but the reality is that the Mexicans, as lovely as people as they are, they tend to use and abuse animals, and when they're finished with them, or if it's not the sex that they want, they cold-heartedly just sort of kick them out. And so we're picked up another one just the other day, so we're at 46 now, and these are all rescued, abandoned, injured animals, and we just nurse them back to health. And nobody wants them, so they're here with us all the time, and they really dominate our lives. But it's a beautiful thing. They're such beautiful creations, and of course they show us the way constantly, because they love without limitations, and they live in the moment, and that's what we human beings need to remember at all times as well. Live in the moment and love unconditionally. Just
when you're talking there, I thought, that we kind of think we're the top of the food chain and superior to animals. But my girlfriend, she's got type 1 diabetes, and she said something to me the other day I found quite amazing. Some people have dogs that are diabetic, and the dog wakes them up in the middle of the night if the person's blood sugars went really low. So they're sensitive to all kinds of things that we are not.
Absolutely. There's so much that we can learn from. One of the things that I think gets Colleen and I so much is that this sort of cognitive dissonance that humanity has with animals. Certain animals they really, really love, and they call them pets, and they love to have them and be around with them. And then the rest of the animals are just there for eating or something. And it's kind of crazy. And we're surrounded, where we are here, we're surrounded with just fields and fields of empty fields or fields of crops. And so we have a lot of animals that are just allowed to graze around us here, because we live about 10 minutes outside of the nearest town. We're really right in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful, very quiet, peaceful. And the animals always just end up seem to come around us and our house and property a lot. And there's
outside of the ones you're looking after.
Yeah, and there's so much that you can learn. And the thing is that the animal that's been picked on the most by organized society, of course, is the cow. There's a reason to this, because cows are extremely intelligent and they're extremely sensitive. And when we do the things that we do to cows, they feel it more so than even most animals. And most animals, of course, have tremendous feelings. But cows really, really, really feel it, and it devastates them that beings like us would betray that kind of love and trust that they have for us. And when we torture them, and then when we kill them, there is an energy that is released that is horrific. And it's all part of what I described to our subscribers in most of our videos. This is all part of this thin veneer that sort of a cloud, is a gray shroud or cloud that hangs over this beautiful, precious earth. And it is all the collective horrific deeds that mankind has done unkindly over the years, because we've been tricked into living in the left hemisphere of the brain, that dime brain that we have no business spending much of if any time there at all. And yet that's the only place where we live. And it's there where we're able to just casually make these disconnections from reality and just say, yeah, I love a dog, I love a cat, they're great. But a cow, that's for eating. And the fact is, it's not. Cows are there to help us. Cows are there to teach us. Cows are there to love us. And they are so intelligent. It's incredible. And boy, they just get along with our dogs and cats and our animals, our horses. They get along with everyone so well, because they're just such a loving species.
When I started talking to you about Mexico, I've been watching a documentary recently, a guy called Carl Pilkington. He's got the show An Idiot Abroad. It's like a typical Englishman traveling the world. And the last episode I watched was in Mexico, and it looked like a crazy place, shall we say. It's still quite free and wild, you know. And but then when you're talking there, in the previous episode, he was in India, and they had one of these, shrines how they worship the cow there. And they were doing all kinds of stuff with cow dung and all this kinds of stuff, It seems to be taking it to extreme. But is that why they do that in India? Do you know much about the Indians and how they worship the cow? And is that doing any good, or, do these people just take things too far?
Yeah, well, and again, they've lost. It's the same thing with every religion. Religion is there to lie to you and to control you. Because again, and it's not just the ancient spiritual texts. All ancient texts were written allegorically, and the reason that the way of the ancients was allegorical is that in the shortest amount of time and space, you can transfer accurately the greatest amount of knowledge or gnosis. And that's why, and of course, with these fantastical stories, you don't forget them, and then you incorporate them. They just become part of your being. So like Bill Donahue likes to talk about all the time, if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, let's go shoot the bull, you don't run to your gun cabinet and grab a rifle because you're going to shoot a cow. You know intuitively, instinctively, that means let's go have a conversation. Or what's that guy's problem? He's 3 sheets to the wind. What? What is, I don't know. We all know what these things mean. They're commonsensical. And we have been purposefully taken away from our common sense, because that's where wisdom rests, with intuition, with telepathy, the 6th and the 7th senses. We're all about the 5 physical senses. Nobody wants to acknowledge the 6th and 7th metaphysical senses. In the solar plexus, intuition, that gut feeling right in here, that gut feeling that we always get. I should have gone with my gut feeling. I knew that something wasn't right with that guy, but I did it anyways. Right, because you're completely disconnected from your inner self. You're completely disconnected from this magical world, from the base of your torso to the 3rd ventricle of your brain. This is it right here, folks. If you're watching, right where I'm doing, this is the monadic circle. This is flat Earth. And again, if we do a cross section for you here, in the very center of your brain, right here, is the 3rd ventricle, and that is where the optic thalamus is, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland. And if you just follow that line, straight back here, just to the right-hand side of the divide is the claustrum. This is where everything magical within you is created, because without the claustrum, you don't have blood. Without the claustrum, you don't have corpuscles. Without the claustrum, you wouldn't have bones. Without the claustrum, you wouldn't have your blood. You wouldn't exist. You wouldn't have your organs. The entire endocrine system which is this, the sacred secretions of these wise kings that come from the east bearing gifts. This is a metaphor for the endocrine system, and it's just all pure magic inside of our heads. And again, what connects from the colostrum to the third ventricle, the very center of our brain? A chimney. so the saintly colostrum has a chimney where it has direct access to us, our essence, the seat of our soul, where the soul is, the seat of ourselves, and that is the third ventricle. And again, what's incredible is that right at the entrance of that tube or that chimney that runs from the colostrum into the third ventricle is a little indentation right at the start of that chimney or that tube, a little indentation, and it looks exactly like, it literally does, folks, it looks exactly like a seat. This is what's known as the mercy seat, and that's where God exists within you. Santa Claus right next to God, and they connect to you through a chimney, bringing you presents. And the only way that you can receive these presents is to be present. That's the whole point of Christmas time and presents, is for you to live in the moment. Because when you live in the canal, you cano. You know when you live in the K now. So knowing is telling you. All of the English language is hieroglyphics. And that's the book that we're writing right now, the hieroglyphics of the English language from A to Z. And it is magical. The English language is magical. It's beautiful. There's not a single bad letter. There's not a single bad word at all. They're all just absolutely perfect. And it tells a story from A to Z, Mr. Ataz, A to Z. It tells the one story of who you are and what you're supposed to do to get to the end. The end is Z. The mark of Zorro, Zoroaster, is the Z, and it is completion. And A is Alpha, is the Father. And in the beginning, that's all there was. That's all there was. So it's just, we are magical beyond description. And the only way that we can have access to any of this magic is by going within. What does organized religion do, Billy? You know this so well. Organized religion says, no, you can't go within. Even though the Bible, everything in the Old and New Testament, what did they tell you? What did the Christos say in every single book? Constantly, go within, go within. And when the apostles wander into the next town and they say, Jesus, take a look at this new temple to God over here. What does Jesus say every single time? Why do you even look in that direction? Why are you even casting your gaze upon that building? For it is made with the hands of man, and it will fall, and surely every single brick will fall to the ground and dissolve into dust. It is not out there, it is within you. And again, the Catholic Church, they created, Billy, a video that must have cost them millions of dollars to make. And it's a scare tactic. And what it talks about in about, I think, 40 minutes is the danger of this whole chakra business, meditation, and going within. And what they literally say in this video is that if you do this even one time, if you access that third eye within you, which is the third ventricle of the brain, if you access it even once, it does exist. They admit this. And they said it is a portal, which it is. It's a portal between space and counter space, between this physical reality and our true metaphysical reality, on and off, light and dark, mother and father, electricity, magnetism. It's the polarity. And they admit that, but they say that this tube takes you to the devil. And when you go through this tube even one time, the devil is there to receive you, and he steals your soul, and you are lost for all eternity in hell. And that's the kind of thing that they do to force people out of fear to stay away from going within by meditation. And again, why is this important, Billy? Because if we did stay in the now, if we did meditate, what would we learn? Cows are our friend. You shouldn't be murdering and killing creations that are there to love you, to teach you, to heal you, to nurse you, to bring you joy. And we discover all these things naturally when we go within. So
I'd like to ask you basically how you got started on this path. Have you always been, spiritual, like a vegan, and how did you know these things? What brought you into it? I know you wrote about 150 books on different albums, and you were deciphering those albums at quite a high level, the lyrics and stuff. How did you get the knowledge to be able to do that? And then have you taken that further? You kind of came into the truth community with that kind of purpose, I think, to get known, to sell your books, and then you've kind of taken it on further with Santos and stuff. Can you just, you got into it, how do you know this stuff, Because it's quite detailed, the level you get into with these things,
Yeah, what you're saying is very accurate. Like I say, now it's about, I think 11 years, 10 or 11 years ago, and I sat down because in art is the truth, because that's what artists do. They in fact, art is meditation, and in that the big radio show that I'm doing on Monday. On my People for People radio show this coming Monday night, 7 p.m. UK time. I'm going to be devoting the whole 2-hour show to meditation and what meditation really is, because there's a million books that are available now on meditation, and virtually none of them tell you the truth about meditation, which is consistent with everything in organized society. They lie to you about everything. So I got to a point where I recognized that in all of these books I was reading and drawn to, and all of these albums that I listened to and was drawn to, and all of these works of art that these various painters and sculptors did that I was drawn to, that they're all telling you something, that there was something there. Because in my personal background with my family, I have zero connection.
Where did you go?
To religion. I'm from Canada, so I grew up in a very beautiful, very peaceful town called Victoria, and it's very close to the American border, close to Seattle, Washington. And I think when I grew up, it had a population of like 300,000, but boy, was it ever the smallest big town in the history of the world. A very sleepy, peaceful, small town. And I grew up without any access to religion or the concept of God at all. And of course, in many ways, that is an absolute blessing that it did happen that way. And it was really interesting just growing up as a kid that I was like a top athlete and a top academic student, just because I have, a good memory. And that's all school is, right? Just regurgitate, shut up, don't think, just regurgitate what we tell you, and you'll go far. You'll go far.
Tell them what I want to hear.
That's right. So in school, so I did well with all of that, but I hated school, and I spent so little time there, and I cut school all the time. So much so that the principal finally organized in my high school, a meeting with my parents because I was missing so much school. And my dad, I never forget, my dad said, the kid's got straight A's. If there was an issue with his grades, you could maybe say something to me. But if it isn't broken, it doesn't be fixed. So you got no support with us. And which was great because I just couldn't stand school at all. I knew that what was going on there wasn't right. And so I spent very little time there. And what I did, Billy, is that every time I cut school, I went to bookstores and I went to record stores. And I found myself in sort of that folky, almost hippie-ish kind of environment. And and it was great. And it was through these kinds of people recommending certain kinds of books that led me into all of this. But really, it was through the books that I read and the music that I listened to, and you began to go, wait a minute, holy cow! In every one of these songs, they're singing about God, and every time they say baby, 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 they're saying Baba, 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 which is the Father, which is the grandfather, and of course the God. Yahweh, Jehovah, is the God grandfather of all fathers. He is I am. And that's what I came to. And I just started to write these books, and it just poured through me. And it took 7 years to write 150 books. I've only released six of them because the animal rescue sanctuary just grew to a point where it demanded so much of my time here. It's a full-time job for Collywog and I to look after all these animals. I get up early and feed and water, and then I take a break, spend time with Collie, and then it's work cleaning up and all that stuff. And then by that time, you're ready for feeding again, and yike. So plus the other thing, like you said, is that nobody knew me, nobody had any frame of reference, and nobody in the mainstream was interested in these books and what these books had to say. So what we realized is that we needed to create some kind of awareness for this message. And then the thing that's incredible, Billy, is that when we came to the truth movement, we came right at a time where everyone was in this mindset of that all rock and roll music, all sort of popular music is just a scam, and it was just all made by these fake hippies that were all just of all these elite military families, and that what they were
David book, Laurel, weird scenes from the Laurel Canyon, basically.
It is
that one open. And
that's right. McGowan's book, which has lots of really good connections. I mean, he doesn't really piece anything together in the book, but he just lays out this alarming consistency with all these.
Tony Mitchell, Neil Young, Emmylou Harris, Frank Zappa, Jackson Brown. The list goes on and on. And they've all got parents who are. Jim Morrison's father was the admiral on the Gulf of Tonkin. I forget the name of the boat, the ship.
That's right.
The false flag. So basically, they've all got military parents, all the so-called hippie rebels. So why do you think? I mean, in the book, do you think the hippie movement therefore was created? You know, it's like a social experiment. Lots of young people were waking up, kind of anti-war. So they've kind of got them all on drugs and out of their mind to kind of demonize kind of peace and love idea.
Yeah, so well put, Billy. Thank you. And the thing is that it's never as simple as that. And that's the thing that Collywog and I guess are blessed with is this vision where we can see the polarities to everything. And what alarms us with the truth community is that so many in the truth community, they have only one eye open. They say that their minds are open and that they're awakened. Well, they've only awakened one side, and that one side is their left side. And they just take this very defeatist, narrow, negative viewpoint of humans, humanity, our future, everything. And it sells us down the road because it diminishes us, and it never leads us to hope and to being strong and feeling like we can succeed and conquer anything. It just constantly makes us weaker and weaker and weaker and more angry and frustrated, which we take out on the ones closest to us, our loved ones. And that's the problem. What Dave McGowan's book, like I said, has lots of truthful and accurate information in it, but the book created a flood of the single-minded people that sort of came through that information, and then just painted. You're trying to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel with a roller. You can't do that. Michelangelo was on his back suspended for years, and it is a single brushstroke in a day's work to be able to create that kind of detailed masterpiece, Gnosis. You can't do the Sistine Chapel with a roller. And essentially what everybody's done, not only with the hippie movement, the 60s, and the music scene, they've done it with everything in the truth community. It's just a roller from the left-hand side of the brain. And there's no hope, no one's coming to save us, it's all evil. And that isn't the case. And you were mentioning names like Joni Mitchell and Neil Young and of course Jim Morrison, and it goes on and on and on. But here's the thing, folks, and Santos talks about this so beautifully as well. In every single family, even the Illuminati families, the real Phoenician families, the ones that are really behind the cabal, even within those families, there are breakaways in every generation. There are kids, there are people that are finding themselves going, how did I get into this madness and this sickness? I will not do this. I won't do this. And they do break away. No, come on, Charlie, you're crazy. You're crazy. No, it's just only one thing. What? Everything.
The thing is, if you're saying they broke away, they still got. I mean, they got record contracts straight off the bat. A lot of them weren't actually that talented. They just kind of formed in Laurel Canyon. All of a sudden, all these groups pouring out of there with record contracts on national TV. I mean, they're getting support. Do you think that's just because the industry seen the talent of the kids and they're just like, we'll create an industry with this and then we can divert it as years goes down, once you establish the art form kind of thing? How did they get these deals so easily? Because, and a lot of, people think you can't make it to the top these days unless you're sold your soul to the devil kind of thing. When you said one eye, a lot of them do this all in every picture, so you do assume that they are all working against you kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And when they're doing that, they're always doing it this way. They're always covering, they're either signifying the left eye and bringing attention to it, or they're covering the right eye and showing you that they're of the left brain. I did that podcast about a year ago now on Illuminati symbolism and the Black Eye Club and all of these celebrities that were suddenly appearing and famous. King and the King and Queen of England, again, constantly, and like Mark Devlin said on the show we did about him. Mark said, he goes, yeah, you're right. He said Prince Philip spends more time with black eyes than without black eyes. I did exactly.
Why did they all have black eyes? Was it something to do with a ritual they were doing or something?
It is. Remember, none of these people have power. Everybody wants to say the King and the Queen of England or these royal families are very, very powerful bloodlines and very, very powerful. They're freaking idiots. They're minions. These are the people that are taking adrenochrome. These are the ones that are hooked on and strung out on adrenochrome. You don't get fooled into this. The power resides in a handful of families. I kid you not, it is tiny. And these families, they can't stand their minions. They realize that these minions are necessary, but they can't stand them. And they can't stand them because they can't even stand themselves. That's what happens when you're a Canaanite of the left brain. You're ruled by your ego and you hate and hate and hate and hate. There's no love. There's no feminine. There's no sacred feminine. All there is Washington monuments in every single town and city around the world. It is the celebration of Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. And everywhere you go, you see the penis, and you don't see the womb because the womb has been obfuscated or hijacked from our existence. And this is the beauty of Q, which we're going to get into today, and the Q movement that's going on. And this is the whole truth about the one story within all of these great rock songs and all of these famous books. It's the truth of truth is what the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita and the Quran and the Egyptian Book of the Dead, they all talk about this one thing. and that is raising the sacred feminine within us, because she has to get back upon high into the third ventricle of the brain, and there she marries the father. Mary marries Joseph, the father, in the third ventricle, in the chamber of the bridegroom. And that's why in our tradition of weddings, we have the best man, who is Jesus Christ, Christ Jesus, Krishna Buddha, and because that's our journey, that's who we are. All of us are Jesus Christ. That's what we're here to do, and we are the ones that rescue the bride. That's why you see all these nursery stories, Hollywood movies, all of them doing these stories about a damsel in distress, a dragon or a beast that has to be conquered, killed, destroyed, and then the rescuing and the bringing of the bride back home to the father. And that's marching her up the aisle, and the aisle is your spine, and you take the sacred feminine up the spine into the higher temple. You have the temple of the body, and you have the temple of the mind, the higher existence. So this is our metaphysical plane right here, and this is our physical plane from the blood-brain barrier here to your torso, to your anus and your reproductive organs. That's the whole world. And I kid you not, the entire Bible is written about that. The entire Bible is just an allegory from your torso to the top of your skull. Golgotha, Calvary, where Christ was crucified, they just mean skull. It's the place of the skull. And that's where we get crucified here. And this is all about the chrism oil, which is the true Jesus Christ. Jesus, there's nobody named Jesus Christ. And I don't say that to hurt people or to devalue, because Christ Jesus is very, very real. And Colleen and I have just the most passionate, deep love and respect for Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ exists within each one of us. Jesus Christ is that oil that Santa Claus and the Colostrum gifts to us once every single month, 13 times a year from the age of 12 onwards. And our whole journey, and if we don't do it in this lifetime, guess what? You come back. You go around and around and around the wheel until one time, you raise Jesus and the Mother Mary back up into here. And this is why Colleen and I do this. It's why we wrote those books on the music. It's why all of these artists, that's all they were writing about. So again, folks, we may have a lot of UK citizens listening to the podcast today. Alan Parsons Project. The principal writer was Eric Wolfson. Alan Parsons is a genius. He did all the instrumentals. Alan, of course, produced and engineered the albums. He is a genius, but so is Eric Wolfson. Eric Wolfson wrote all those lyrics. Eric Wolfson created all those songs. And Eric Wolfson, on every single Alan Parsons album, is writing to you about Jesus Christ. He's writing to you about Mary and Mary Magdalene, and raising the Kundalini up back home. Every single one of these. The band America, whose mothers are British, and they grew up on military bases just outside of London, in England. They have joint citizenship between America and England, because they have American fathers, officers that were stationed outside of London. And every single America song, I mean, they are probably along.
Horse with no name. What does that mean, a horse with no name? You went into that one time. Are we the horse?
Yeah, we that's right. The allegory. We are, and Jesus is the horse, and we are on, because a horse, because it goes on a journey. And the horse with no name is us, and that's the thing. Jesus Christ, is in essence, doesn't have a name. The name Christ is Christos, and that comes from the chrism oil. And the existence of Jesus Christ is through this manifestation, allegorization of the real story within us, of this essence, which is the chrism oil. So all of those songs, A Horse with No Name, every single word, you just, and all of these folks knew the English language inside out. That's why we've stopped the writing of the book on the chrism oil and the raising of the chrism oil to complete this book first on the hieroglyphics of the English language.
Just tell you, you're writing a book with a guy called Josh X.
Yes.
Is absolutely brilliant at taking words and just, words that you hear every day. A simple example would be like history, and he would say, well, his story. Now that's a simple, he goes into it in levels you can't even imagine, and it blows your mind. He was on their show with Steve Hughes the other day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I love that, things with the language, it was all hidden and encoded in there.
Yeah, you just have to know what each letter means. Each letter has a sacred meaning. So very, very quickly, A, alpha, is Father, is the singularity of God. In the beginning, all there was A. All there was the alpha, God consciousness. And God consciousness became aware of his existence. And then he said, like it says in Genesis, let there be more. That's all we have to do to be able to become creators of our own worlds from within us. We just have to go, wait a minute, I exist, I am. That's why the name of God in all of these sacred texts is Yahweh or Java or Yahweh or Jehovah, because they both mean Yahweh in ancient Hebrew is I am. Jehovah in ancient Greek is I am. What does God, how does God respond to Moses upon the mount when they're hanging out at the burning bush? Breathing in that sacred sacrament of the cannabosum.
I was going to talk to you about that actually. What do you, first of all, here's the question, Paul. You're saying that the purpose of life here is to raise up the chrism oil and become Christ, and then we don't need.
But you can only do that through Mary. So remember this is the key thing that virtually nobody gets and nobody talks about. That's why this book, when it's completed, will become, it's designed to be the book, the resource manual for all time on the raising of the chrism oil, because it's the whole story. You cannot raise yourself back home without bringing the mother. It's just so brilliant, because that's a metaphor for service to others. We live our lives through the service to others. When we live it exclusively through ourselves, you can't get back to heaven. You absolutely can't. You need the help of the mother, because the mother, Mary, is magnetism. The letter B in the alphabet, B, is for breast, is for bosom. And if you look at the capital B, it has the breast, it has the belly, where the baby, B, and then what you realize is that the B connects to M, and then it's M. Everywhere it's just M's. Mother, Mary, magnetism. And that's what the mother is. The mother is magnetism. And in ancient Sanskrit means two words, san and skrit. San is saintly, holy, and skrit is script, holy script, created by the Aryans, the master race. Yeah, the Aryans are not genetic. They're people of the right hemisphere of the brain. Aryans are Abels. Abel, not Cain. I am able to find God because my mind is truly open, because I went up and to the right. Up, cast thy net to the right. And those are the Aryans. The whole rest of the world Billy, can be understood this way. Right brain, left brain. Cain and Abel, and very specifically, now get ready for this one, Aryans versus Semites. have we heard that story about 75 years ago? Aryans, Semites. And anyone who wants to talk about the truth, anyone who wants to connect our inner selves with our outer selves and raise us back up into heaven with God is an Aryan. And the Aryans are, they created everything. Do you not find this coincident that just after the release of Flat Earth, which I'm going to share with you today as we get into the Q stuff, is coming from Q. Eric Dubay, whomever Eric is, Collywog and I love Eric. We don't know Eric at all, have no idea who he is whatsoever. We love his work because everything that Eric has shared is the beautiful holistic truth. Everything that Eric has said and done is this beautiful holistic truth, and we love his work. We've attempted to reach out to Eric, and we've received virtually nothing in response. That's totally fine. That's okay. But his work is absolutely brilliant and beautiful because it's the holistic truth.
Well, he was one of the first ones that actually came out with the flat Earth, and then Mark Sargent kind of jumped on it and kind of,
and try to take ownership of it, which is what the Cabal, the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Semites, that's what they do. No, I did it, I own it. I got the papers here. Mark Sargent, who he's shady background and connections, and then very quickly, whom did Mark Sargent connect to with regard to flat Earth? He connected to the literal Christians, literalist Christians that literally think that Jonah fell into the whale and lived in a whale for 3 days and came out a great devotee of God, that all of this stuff literally is true. That's how you can tell who's telling the truth and who's the shill or the liar in the truth community. You just have to see, where do your true loyalties rest? Where do they stand? Left brain or right brain? Left brain or right brain? Because the people who print money into existence, the cabal that rule over us, and I'm going to be able to release stuff today on the show today that is going to blow you and the viewers away when we get into one of the recent drops from Q and how these people communicate in secret with one another, where they're doing it, and what they're saying. Because I got my hands on actual transcripts of which Obama was president. He has a specific code name, and they all have code names. And the stuff that they're talking about is going to blow you away. And these are the left brainers, and they have no love because there's no mother in them. So that's how Josh X knows all this stuff, Billy. That's why Josh can just in real time dissect every single word in real time and be able to break it down for you. Now, another one that I want to recommend to everybody is a gentleman named James Brockhurst. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with James.
Maybe I'll recognize his face and not the name.
Okay. James presented himself as a YouTube presenter, I think only about 9 months ago. And yeah, we stay, he a lot of people call him Gandalf, and he has the long gray beard.
Yeah, I think he shared the stuff and there's similar stuff to use, kind of high level shit.
That's right. And he also understands the hieroglyphics of the English language, and James is another one that can break down these words in real time as well. So I highly recommend to all of your wonderful subscribers as well to check out James Brockhurst. Collywog and I can absolutely recommend James's work. And it's because you understand that each of these letters is a shape, is a sound, and is a definition. And all three aspects, father, mother, child, the physical, the soul, the spirit, all these things come together in threes. It's the Holy Trinity that form the basis to each letter into a meaning, an understanding. And then you place them together and you go, oh my goodness, oh wow, I totally know what that word means. I absolutely.
When this book comes out, we'll be able to get this kind of level of knowledge, basically.
To everyone, we're going to be able, we're going to teach, and plus in the book, I'm going to put in all of the sacred numerology as well. So it's going to encode the hieroglyphics of the English language from A to Z, plus God's sacred numbers of 1 through 9. I call them 1 through 12 because it's a journey to 12 to become 13. The whole purpose of life is for you, precious people, and myself to become the number 13. Why do you think society, organized society, revels in destroying the number 13? And it's a bad luck, bad day. No. Everything can be understood this way. We are the prodigal son or daughter.
And did we fall? Are we the fallen ones? And
yes.
So how did we fall? And are we just now trapped in samsara until we can figure this out and raise our Christ out, and then we don't need to come back here?
Yes, Billy, brilliant, and that's exactly what it is. So the thing is about the Maya, the physical world. A lot of people call this the illusion, and they actually refer to the Sanskrit Maya, the word Maya, which they think, because somebody told them, means illusion. It means illusory. And the thing is, folks, this is very real. This is real. And I would be insulting you if I came along and said that this is all just an illusion. It's all fake. No. This is powerfully real, and it is destroying you.
Icke said everything is illusion. Everything is a lie, and everything's an illusion. So if David Icke says it, no, it was. I really loved your rant with you and Colleen the other day, where you kind of got into that, because lots of people get into these things through David Icke, and that's why I've done it myself many years ago. But I always had questions like, why would you not talk about Kate of Gaia was talking about the legal name, and why would you not reference that? As far as meditation goes, he says, "Oh, I don't meditate, I just daydream," and that to me was another thing that he puts his wee things out. Or Trump's connected with Israel, and then he'll go on and talk about this other stuff. He'll focus on this level, and you think you're getting all the truth. But then I always say, what's he not talking about? So I really loved your rant the other day about it.
Thank you. Well, we don't do this for any fame or glory or numbers. First off, what people should know is that our Facebook page and YouTube channel are massively monitored by organized society, and we have enormous dampers that are placed upon our YouTube channel that suppresses, and we don't talk about it because ultimately it doesn't matter. And people need to get past this ridiculous notion that if you have 300,000 subscribers, then that's the truth. That has to be the truth because they've got 300,000 subscribers. It's one of the reasons why Collywog and I love everything that you do: passion, heart, living in the moment, honesty, integrity, all the things that you do. What's that?
And no subscribers.
And you don't possess huge numbers. We don't possess huge numbers.
I'm playing the game and chasing it all. I'll do what I do. If people like it, and c'est la vie.
Well, and the other thing that you need to know about that, beyond that, is that they're suppressing your numbers as well. And what they do, of course, is that with their logarithms, they are making sure that when we put out a video, it doesn't go anywhere. People are not seeing these things. It's like the videos that I do. I decoded Hotel California before they shut it down.
What's that one?
And gave me a strike, our first ever and they gave us a strike for putting up Hotel California. And of course, they did that because we told the truth, the whole truth of what the song is about. And until that point, what did anybody really know about the Hotel California? bits and pieces, and there it was, the whole story, the whole truth in plain sight. And again, you see, it's the dragon, it's the hero, it's the damsel in distress, it's the spine, it's the blood-brain barrier, it's crucifixion, it's God, good, devil, evil. It's Hotel California. Hotel California is the Outlook Hotel in Stanley Kubrick's film. Yeah, that's right. Where he tore into Stephen King, and because Stephen King is a fucking shill, absolute shill for organized society, and destroyed. That's why he had the Volkswagen Beetle in an accident on their way to the hotel. It's a little nod to Stephen King, but so again, they don't want this truth coming out, and so we put this video about one of the most popular songs ever, and I think it had 900 views by the time they shut it down. How's that possible? Somebody can put up a video about Hotel California without even the lyrics and just a couple of pictures in the background, and it has 13 million views. Yeah. We put up a video explaining to you the whole story, as 900 views.
Yeah, it says it all, really. I mean, I've known the media is lying to us, the propaganda, but since this basically the shutdown, this is when I'm maybe a bit like you. I kind of say all politicians, it's all lies. You have to be in the game, get sponsored to get up to the top, and so I kind of put Trump as just like I seen him as another politician, but when this lockdown happened, I started looking into it a bit more, and the level of the bias in the mainstream media is off the scale. It is ridiculous. They're just lying about absolutely everything, and it's like I can't even watch it. I just start shouting at the TV, and it's just incredible. So I do want to get into this Q stuff. How did were you similar to me? Just like, I mean, you said about 8 months ago you were kind of woken up to this. I've only been into it the past month or so, so I'm still getting to grips with it all. Would you like to tell folks? I mean, it's very complicated. Like Trump, he's kind of appeared from nowhere, but there's all this background story with his grandfather, his uncle, the time travel aspect. I don't know if you know about that and all that kind of stuff. So would you like to try and, bear in mind the audience might not be aware of this stuff, can you try and lay it simply, where did Trump come from? How did he get to this position? Who's supporting him? And what this QAnon is? Can we try and go into that for the last half hour?
Okay. Yeah. Essentially, when the 2016 election came about in the United States, Colleen and I don't know why, but we were drawn to it, like almost against our will, because we absolutely knew there are no answers in organized society and in politics. And then when Trump actually won the nomination for the Republican Party, it was just like, what a circus. But then again, we all know how evil Hillary Clinton and the Clintons are, what they represent. So it's like you would support, even though no good's going to come from it, you would support anybody.
Well, that's what I did. Especially when Hillary's doing all this movements and stuff,
Yeah, well, the thing that people need to know is that there's multiple Hillarys. All this stuff's going to come out. And it's our belief, I don't know for certain, we've been told this, I don't know for certain, but we've been told Hillary is dead. And that they're down, I think, to just one double. And folks, you need to understand this. There's no such thing as cloning. God creates. We of the human hands, we don't create. We've never invented anything. There's no human inventor. Everything is already here. It's already there. It's already, all we do is we discover. So you can call ourselves innovators, and there's some brilliant innovative minds that have come along, but we don't create anything, folks. Wrap your head around that truth. And so there's no cloning and there's no time travel. There's no such thing as linear time. All that exists is God's moment. So the stories surrounding Trump and time travel are some are purposely misleading. Others are just there to add the flavor, because again, in 5,000 years from now, people are still going to remember what's happening right now, because this is that moment in time. We are literally in the great year, the 26,000 year, where the sun takes its elliptical orbit through the center of all the 12 constellations in the sky. For it to complete this wobbling, this path, and basically, folks, it's creating a serpent, and ultimately it creates the number 8.
Which is, you believe in the flat Earth? Is that not a stationary Earth? I don't understand. I was actually saying this to my girlfriend the other day. 26,000 years. How does that work if we're not traveling through the galaxy based on the old model? You know?
Oh yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, what we are is still silent and stationary. Why? Because that's what God is. God, the letter A, Alpha, is stillness and silence. B, the letter B, the breast in the bosom, the belly, is the mother Mary, who is magnetism. The Sanskrit word for magnetism is, or for magnetism, it means motion. Magnetism means constant motion, because that's what magnetism is. It never, ever, ever stops. This is the basis to Tesla's technologies. And Tesla got his gnosis from the Tartarians. Isn't that interesting, right? The group that just preceded us, where the Cabal says that they built all of these wondrous structures that just magically appeared from 1850 to 1880 out of nowhere. How do we do? We can't make these same structures without the pneumatic
instruments. In Glasgow and stuff, you're amazed by them. You're like, we just don't have the will to even attempt to do that these days, never mind the capability.
That's right. And they're all gorgeous beyond description. They all encode abundance and real wealth of happiness and joy and the
prosperity. So you think Tartaria was basically a big empire that in the 1850s, I think there was a reset or a mud flood or something like that, and basically humanity started again. Then, basically all our history is more or less a lie then.
It totally is. I mean, that's what modern history is his story. And it's the story of the Canaanites who just found themselves 150 years ago going, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. It's like this event occurred, and now we have this chance to rule over these idiots and claim ownership of everything.
Right. So it's quite recent, all this.
It totally is. They'd like to tell you everything is ancient. It isn't. They're all their little tales that they tell us, even with the sort of the main storylines of ancient Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia, and then Rome and ancient Greece. The basic sort of five main storylines, they didn't happen in separate epochs or eons. They were all happening the same time, and it's only about 800 or 900 years ago. Wrap your heads around that. The pyramids in Egypt and what we call the Egyptians, this is all only about 800 or 900 years old. So it is a massive subterfuge, which they need to do. For example, and it fits with everything they do. Just take a look at Polaris, the North Star. It's not the North Star, it's the center star. It's the center of us. We have the claustrum. The claustrum is the North Star, or the center star, in our constellations, in our flat Earth. Because when you get to here, above the bridge of the nose, this is the sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone represents the flat plane of the Earth. What's the shape of our skull? Yeah. You can say it. It's round. It's round. And the sphenoid bone is flat. So you have a flat, round plane. Okay. So if that is the Earth here, then what exists above the flat earth plane here? You can see it. Come on, you can all see it. You can all say it. Guess what this creates? It's a dome. It's a dome. The crown of your skull is the firmament. That's where enlightenment, wisdom exists. The seventh chakra, the crown chakra exists here above the skull, because Christ consciousness connecting to God, God is in counter space. We are in space. There is no outer space. There's inner space. All of this space and aliens and stuff, it's all happening inside of you. There's nowhere to go out there. Why? Because God wants us to go in. Why? Because he exists within us in the mercy seat. And that's why. So again, people want to demonize Gene Roddenberry. And Billy, if you want, we just passed the 1 hour mark. If you want to go till 2, because there's so much information going here, I'll do that, because this would be a crime to stop it at the half hour. So if you want to do that, I
was conscious of the time. Yes, that's good.
Okay, so Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, and people are saying he was a Freemason. Yeah, because to get anywhere, you have to be a Freemason. You have to play the game. Doesn't mean all Freemasons are bad. In fact, Freemasonry isn't bad. What they've turned it into is very evil. Absolutely. And Freemasonry always was.
Do you think Trump is a Freemason?
He absolutely had to go through that channels, but Donald Trump isn't any one thing. He's a true individual. The thing that people need to sort of recognize here is that Donald Trump is Jesus Christ. Oh, that's crazy, Charlie, that's crazy. No, but we all are. We're all Jesus Christ. That's what we all have to do, is the journey of Jesus Christ. It's all there for us in the Bible. It tells you the truth. You just have to know how to read the Bible. Donald Trump is just that person from a young age where they said to him, you're Jesus Christ, and you have to go on this journey. You have to do this. If you don't do this, Frodo Baggins, if you don't take the ring to Mordor and cast it into the fires of Mount Doom, nobody will. Nobody will.
You think he was destined for this role from a young age? Because I assumed, he was doing his business. Well, obviously his father was very rich, and a lot of people actually, I don't know the truth of it, I've researched a wee bit, they said that Trump's businesses were failing and he used to get bailed out and stuff like that quite a bit. So I just thought it was part of the Illuminati. You can't fail, basically. And then that's why I says, he's the president, is just serving the system. Was he that great a businessman? Was he this great builder, and who he was on that TV program, he became a bit of a personality? Was that necessary to kind of get everyone to know him, that kind of thing? Was this all planned out from a long time ago, or did he come into it later?
Because this is all planned from a long time ago, Billy.
Well, do you know about the Russell J. Gold and the David Wynn Miller and what they done to get the flag and stuff?
Yeah.
And then I believe they approached Donald Trump. So how would it be planned if that's kind of came in later? Do you know what I mean? How could they plan it from when he was young?
It's all part of a general narrative, and again through the tradition of keeping the truth, which exists through what are called the Gnostics and the Essenes, are these families. These are the same families that are standing up for us right now while we bitch and complain, moan and groan, and deny everything, and lash out at anyone that's trying to give you real hope with real evidence, and just want to revel in their despair. These are the people that are doing all of these things, and they're doing it for God. They're doing it for goodness. They're doing it for you and I. And it's high time we got off our asses and helped them along the way.
The Kennedys.
Say that again?
You mean like the Kennedys?
Absolutely.
The families.
Yeah, on May 17th, Josh Santos and I are going to do a podcast that I'm sure will get us into all sorts of trouble. Doesn't matter. I don't care. It's the truth. And what it's going to be is the truth of, and people will just see it as Adolf Hitler and National Socialist Germany. But it's so much more than that. As I said to you earlier when we were talking about you could separate the whole of humanity between left brain, right brain, Cain and Abel, and I said to you, Aryans and Semites. Adolf Hitler was an Aryan, and that's not a genetic race. And the Aryans came out of where? They came out of northern India. And where is the birth of all of these ancient wisdoms, these incredible structures like the Taj Mahal? So this is the beginning of Tartaria, was the time that the Aryans spent in northern India. And by the way, it's the exact same time that the Hindu religion doesn't argue this. They say it's the exact same time that the northern Indians awoke to the higher wisdoms. And this is when the Hinduism came about, and the idea of Krishna and this journey of the Christos, of the man having to rise up into heaven upon earth. This is where it all comes. It all comes. This is when Sanskrit originated. Sanskrit was created by the Aryans. All of these things are created by the Aryans. Who are the Aryans? They're you and I. They're anyone who exists out of the right hemisphere of the brain, which is 90% of our brain's capacity. The left brain is only 10% of the brain's capacity. And the Aryans are the Numenorians that Professor Tolkien wrote about in The Lord of the Rings. Any of you folks that have read The Hobbit and The Silmarillion, The Lord of the Rings, and are familiar with Professor Tolkien, you may be aware at the beginning of The Lord of the Rings, he said that this story is not an allegory. It absolutely is an allegory. Every ancient tale and story are all allegories, because that's how every single bit of gnosis has come down to us from the past. It all comes to us via allegories. Tolkien wrote that to protect himself, to protect his wife, to protect his children, to protect his job as a professor of ancient English at Oxford. These are things that we need to say to be able to get our books published, and it's worth doing to getting this beautiful gnosis out there. So Professor Tolkien, Aragorn, Jesus Christ. Aragorn, who is a Numenorian, new man or gold eon. So the Numenorians are the Aryans. Numenorians are the Aryans. And the Aryans have been attacked by Sauron, who wears the ring, which constricts us, just like these rings around Saturn. Remember, we are Saturn. Saturn is the son of Jupiter. Jupiter is always known as a goodly energy, and Jupiter is known as the sun. So Jupiter is very enlightened because it's the sun. The son of the sun is Saturn. And Saturn can be goodly and godly, or Saturn can be evil, the devil. And it's a choice. And when Saturn wears the false crown of Kronos, which just means crown, and Kronos ruled with linear time. That's why people say Kronos means time. It doesn't. Kronos means crown. It's just the wrong crown, the false crown, ruled over down here in our root base Muladhara chakra, down in our near our anus, where we're all full of shit. That's why it's all constructed this way, because it's telling you the truth in every single moment. When we wear the crown of Kronos, we're the fallen Saturn. When we wear the crown of Jesus Christ, which is the purple crown, purple rain, Prince was again singing about purple rain, purple crown. That's the color of the crown chakra, is purple. And that's Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was the chrism oil that raises back up into heaven upon earth. That's the third eye chakra. That's the sixth chakra. That's the last chakra in the body. Once you do this, it opens the gateways for the seventh chakra, the crown. And and I'll just quickly say this because this is just beautiful beyond description. At the end of The Lord of the Rings, when Tolkien is writing where Frodo is on that ship with Gandalf and Galadriel and Elrond heading back to the Undying Lands. The ship goes into the west. West is death. Why would Tolkien do that? Why would you go west instead of east? Why do you have to go to the west to be, which is always been in every culture? West means death, east means life, birth. Aries, a man rising, a rising Aries, which is our real New Year, by the way. And when we go to the west, it means death. The reason is this. It's this one story again, because to go into the west, you have to die. You have to. Harry Potter, again, I cannot tell you people enough. I realize that the woman that they're crediting the books to didn't write these books, and no slight to her. She may be a genius, but this is a collective effort, these books and those movies. And you need to understand, for whatever reason, they chose to tell us the truth in the Harry Potter books and the Harry Potter movies. Those movies are not evil. Those movies are absolutely the truth, the whole truth. Just like the Lord of the Rings, what Tolkien wrote is the truth. Just like C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia are the whole truth. They're all the same story, by the way. That's why people make all these leaps between Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's Middle Earth. Harry Potter, Harry and Potter. Harry is the risen man. If you go back to ancient Sanskrit, Harry is the risen man, or a kingly, goodly, godly one, is an Aryan. Potter is actually, people will say, well, I know what a potter is. No, in the actual origin in Sanskrit of potter, it is actually a cup. It is the cup. It's the cup of Christ. Harry is Christ. Potter is the cup. It's the cup of Christ. It's the story of Jesus Christ. Harry Potter is Jesus Christ. And Harry goes into the Forbidden Forest alone because he has to die alone. We all have to do this, folks. It's Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog Day going around and around and around and around.
Until you got service to others at the end.
Until you realize what Jesus Christ was. He was service to others. And by doing so, Jesus brought Mary with him.
And the magnetism. What do you mean
right. So again, God, stillness, silent, stationary. That's what the earth is. The earth is never, ever, ever, ever moved. It can't move, the earth. And that's why all the scriptures in all these different traditions, metaphysical, spiritual traditions, they all talk about the earth being flat, silent, still, stationary. The earth is never moved. And that the firmament was pulled over. So it's the ceiling, because it's this, folks. And so the Father is stillness and silence. The Mother is Mary. Mary is magnetism. Magnetism in Sanskrit means motion, constantly moving. Okay, what does any technical manuscript or any encyclopedic explanation of what electricity is? They'll all tell you the same thing. Electricity is friction. What do you get when you have a still, silent, unmoving object being in contact with constant motion? This is what you get. You get friction. And the child of this contact, the letter C, is the child. So A, alpha, father, B, bosom, belly, is the mother, and C is the child. And by the way, the letter C tells you everything. Look at the letter C. It's facing to the east. It's facing east, and it's open. It's an open eye facing east, but there's nothing in. It's an empty cup. Because when we're born empty. We have no wisdom, we have no truth, and we must go on this journey to learn the truth. And that's why, Billy, at the end of the story, the letter C becomes the letter Y. And the letter C is the letter Y. And the letter Y is when we do this. And we say, oh, thank you, Lord. You have sent me on the most amazing journey, and I doubted you, and I did not know. And I was the prodigal son for so long, and I wandered aimlessly through the desert and of fornication, of sinful thoughts, and only thought about myself and satisfying myself. And you showed me the way. You showed me to help others. And by doing that, I followed the path that is straight and narrow, just like your vision. Every time you look out, if you're in a city, you can't see this because your sight line is blocked every 10 or 20 meters. But you get out of cities and you look out into the distance. What does everybody's eyesight do in every single moment? It vanishes to a center line, the horizon, Horus, Jesus Christ, I, the single eye, zone, the place of. The place of the single eye is the monadic circle, the monadic point of the monadic circle. And how do you meditate? How do you get into meditation? You stare at the wall, that monadic circle on the wall, and you stare until the dot in the center disappears. And that's when two worlds have become one, and you're now outside of the physical. People are yelling and screaming at you and you can't hear them. You're in here. That's what meditation is when you go in yourself. So with our vision, horizon, you look, and what does the vision do? It continues, the sides go in. The top and the bottom go in. It's all a metaphor for going within, and they go to a vanishing point, a little dot on the very end of your vision. That's the monadic dot, the monadic circle of the monadic circle of the monadic earth. And that's what God is. Father, mother, child. We are the child. We are Jesus Christ, and we have this sacred journey to go on. And this is what Q is encoding in all of his posts. We're now into the 4,000s, and each one of his posts are beautiful. Most people don't know this because most people don't know how to read the Bible. You don't know what allegories are or how to read an allegory, then you can't fully understand.
Just for people not on board, basically, Trump has came to power in 2016. Then a few months after that, a guy calling himself Q, he's become then known as QAnon for Q Anonymous. Some people think it's one person. Some people think it's a team of people, but they're working with Trump. They're very close. Anyway, one person, Charlie's telling me. I thought he was telling me. Hold on. Yeah, so basically, every day there's Q drops. The website to go to, folks, if you're interested, is qmap.pub. You want to check that out. And you'll see these Q drops, and then Trump will post something, and there's lots of people deciphering all this. And it gives you a much bigger perspective, and actually nothing at all like what the mainstream media is telling you about what's happening with this coronavirus. Have you got any thoughts on that? Has the coronavirus a long-term plan of the deep cabal to bring things down, to implement their microchip and vaccine New World Order? But Trump and the Q team and the military people who he's working with have seen this coming for a long time, and they're basically using this downtime to clean up the underground tunnels and stuff like that. Now, if I didn't know about Q, right now I would be quite frustrated because I'm like, I'm not desperate to get back to work. I don't want to go back to the old way of life, but I'm not really happy, the lockdown. I'm actually a bit pissed off that there should be more people wanting to fight and to stand up. The reason I'm not kind of pushing that is because I'm looking at the Q. Do you think that could be some kind of thing to make us all sit back and just watch it? Or should we get involved in protesting? Is that safe? What would you kind of advise things to do?
Okay. Well, Billy, let me answer that and tie everything what you asked earlier. I keep going off on these tangents and probably like crazy story. So you said originally, how do we come into this? About what everyone should know is that Colleen and I have been working on for a while now is to create a breakaway society where we would invite people like Billy Watson, and we would say, Billy, come to this land, potable water, we have free energy. we have no laws. We have just the two Sanskrit words, satyagraha and ahimsa, and it's all about you discovering you. And in the meantime, we constantly help one another, and that's how we do everything. And that's what this would be. So this would be what Collywog likes to call, like Casa Lothlorien from Professor Tolkien's Middle Earth world of Galadriel and the realm of Lothlorien.
Everybody should be headed. The mainstream society should be headed towards this. You know what I mean? Getting back to nature, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's never going to happen, because again, it's ruled over by and we're going to get into how sickening and how I'm going to just give one example, because we won't have any more time for that. But wow, the control. So that's what we're working. We're working with a group of people that know how to do this, and they literally know how to work with the cabal to literally to get our rights back out of where they've been from us when we were born, which is the Maritime Admiralty laws. And very, very, very quickly, when you are born, there's two of you. There's the physical you, and which is in this Maya, this realm, which is very real, but is made up of illusory principles, this duality, because one moment it's dark and the next is light, and one moment you're happy and then you're sad, and all of these things. So there's no singularity, there's duality, and it drives us crazy, these two hemispheres of the brain, and not knowing, we weren't given a manual for how to operate any of this. We, like I always say to Collywog, with Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek is all about space going within. Roddenberry's not telling you that it's outer space there. The Starship Enterprise means enter and you will receive the prize. Enterprise is going within. And if you look at I think I said it before, perhaps with you, Billy, but when you look at that very first episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, with Jean-Luc Picard as the new captain, the very opening shot, the first shot of the first season, the first show, shows what looks like a Buddhist monk in meditation in a cave in complete darkness, and the camera pulls away, and you still think, yeah, this is like it's a Buddhist monk or something. Could be Tibet, and then it pulls away, and you see the bald-headed Captain Picard, and it's a 7-year series, 7 years for the 7 chakras, and it's the journey of Picard. And I can absolutely guarantee all of you, the character Q in Star Trek: The Next Generation is foreshadowing our Q, this Q. How long this plan goes back. Roddenberry is part of the goodly, godly white hats. Star Trek is a gift from the heavens. It's like C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia, or Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, or the Harry Potter books. These are gifts. They're absolute gifts. Roddenberry gifted us a truth, and everything about Star Trek is Jesus Christ, Captain Kirk, who's in the center, Spock's on one side, up and to the right. He's the right brain who controls his emotions, who is deep in thought and meditation, and Dr. McCoy down and to the left, right? When they're always, Captain Kirk's in the middle. Captain Kirk used to wear the green tunic quite a bit, right? Green symbolizing the heart chakra, the middle plane, middle way that Buddha taught, flat earth, the center. That's what we're supposed to all be, is the middle point between alkaline and acidity. Captain Kirk, sitting in his chair, is the middle way. Up and to the right is the right brain Spock. Down and to the left is Dr. McCoy. What's Dr. McCoy known for? Raspy. He's an emotional being ruled over by the moon goddess Sin. Sin. The moon goddess is known as Sin. And it is a sin when we allow our emotions to rule over us. It's just an allegory for allowing our emotions to rule over our 5 physical senses. So Roddenberry is simply telling you the Bible. That's it. Every episode's about the Quran. Every episode's about the Bhagavad Gita. Every episode's about the Bible, or the Egyptian Book of the Dead. every episode. And that's when I was a kid. I was born in 63. So I was watching Star Trek in 68, 69, 70. And when I was watching, and I was just a little kid, but when I was watching it, everybody at the time was saying the same thing. You know what? These shows have nothing to do with space, and the graphics are so poor, and you know the styrofoam rocks and whatnot. Rodney's doing that on purpose to downplay the technology aspect of things and to focus on these three people, because the story is about these three people: the father, the mother, and the child. It's the Holy Trinity. It's always the Holy Trinity. It's always the one story. And that's what we're seeing in all these stories. And then, like I said, the next generation, you see that opening shot, and it's like, oh my God, I was, when I first saw this, I was in tears. I couldn't believe, because that's exactly what he's showing you in the opening shot of the Star Trek The Next Generation. And then the character Q. I'm telling you, folks, Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. 1 is God. 7 is God intervention. That's what this revolution is. You need to understand.
I was going to ask that. Basically, with the cabal and the evil shit that they're getting up to, you know, down in the tunnels and whatnot, and they were so convinced that it's full steam ahead, and you know, 1984, here we go, etc. Has God stepped in at this juncture to say enough's enough? Is there like a, you know, how did he? What kind of happened? There were some miracles of, I don't know, Russell J. Gold getting the flag. And basically the American government since 1999 shouldn't actually be there. It's there improperly because they didn't have the old constitution. Russell J. Gold kind of saved that. And
exactly right.
Postmaster General right now for the world. And I believe that he had access then to like 17 million bars of gold or something that he went to Trump with to enable this new currency, the Nisara Jisara, to then have money backed by gold, so their currency won't have interest on it, and we can live, you know, more fairly, I guess.
Well done, Billy. Well done. Everything you're saying is exactly true, and you need to understand where does he get the gnosis or the knowledge to do this? How does he get the power to be able to do these things? And you say God, and people just roll their eyes. Why? Because religion has been here for however many hundreds of years, lying to you and making God look like a joke, making the Bible look like a complete joke. It isn't. It's real. It's absolutely real.
So you and I just put ideas in people's heads and setting, like, actually, you know, without us conscious to be saying, oh, this is God making me do this. Maybe there's people that meditate. That is what meditation's for. There is for, like, to listen to God, so then you do God's will on this earth, and then if everybody had done God's will, there wouldn't be any evil going around, basically.
Again, brilliant, Billy. You're decoding in real time the whole truth of everything. You are. This is the Essenes and the Gnostics, and then the Essenes, these ancient ones who are Arians to the Essenes who wrote the Old Testament, to the Gnostics who wrote the New Testament, to now these hidden Gnostics who encode all of this truth in their songs, like Eric Wolfson from Alan Parsons, the band America, Steely Dan, Donald Fagen, Walter Becker, every single one. It's all about drugs. It's all about drugs. Yeah, it is on one level, because that's Dr. McCoy. That's the left-hand path. That's the left brain. But every Steely Dan song, Kid Charlemagne, is there gas in the car? Is there gas in the car? What they're saying is there oil in your lamp? Is there oil in your lamp? The only way you're going to get away from these people is if you have gas in your car, is oil in your lamp, right? So the song is all about drugs and Owsley Stanley, you know, the road manager for the Grateful Dead, and he was the one that made LSD, and it's all about LSD and stuff. Yeah, it is on one level, because he's the false Jesus. He's the false Saturn. He's the one who wears chronos, lying to people. Again, the hippies were real and they were genuine, because they were born out of the freaks. Charlie Freak, that's where it comes from. The freaks out of the 50s. The kids in the 50s said, this is and bullshit. My parents are dead because they fought a war that I know nothing about, and now you're putting me to sleep with Beaver Cleaver.
So they knew they were going to have a lot of young people wanting a change, so they kind of took control of that awakening.
That's right. And everything that TV did is to teach materialism, the material plane, instead of the higher plane. The sphenoid bone here, flat earth, it's inside your head. That's the higher plane. Your lower plane is right down here in your sacrum, which sits right where your reproductive organs are and right where your anus is. Why, Billy, if you asked 1,000 people right now to describe this world or their lives, what would they say? They would literally use, sorry for the profane language in advance, but what would they literally say? They would say, my life is full of shit, because people are just full of shit. And to be honest with you, we're all fucked. We're all fucked. Why do they use words like screwed and fucked and shit and all of these things? Because that's where our energy is. We are down in the lowest chakra. Chakra 1, the Muladhara, the root base red left brain chakra. We have to get to blue, third eye, transitioning in the sixth chakra, the third eye chakra, to the purple crown. This is where we have to get to. Here, here, and here. This is crucifixion. That's why Harry Potter had to go into the forbidden forest himself, and he had to die. And who killed him? And what did Dumbledore say? He said, Harry has to be killed by Lord Voldemort himself. Don't you get this? Lord Voldemort is Harry Potter. It's just Lord Voldemort is Harry's left brain. Harry, his essence, the child, the beautiful, innocent child, is the right hemisphere of the brain. That's all it is. That's why at the end of the movie, when Harry yanks Voldemort off of Hogwarts and they fall down together, you watch this incredible morphing between the two of their faces. And then there's that one shot, just freeze frame it. There's that one shot where it is perfectly half Harry, half Voldemort. That's the face. Guess what? Voldemort was on the left side. Harry's face was on the right side. They're telling you in plain sight. 69, the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang, 69, is the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. The lower material plane or the higher metaphysical plane. God is here. Hell is here. My life is fucked and all this stuff.
So if you say Hollywood's corrupt and evil, why would they make these movies? Do you think it's part of them that they have to give full disclosure, or do you think it's like part of the game of this life, that it's like they're going to provide all the tools and it's up to us to have the will to then look for them? Why do these movies like that? Okay, if somebody writes a book, you could say, okay, put it down, one guy writing a book, but a movie is a whole different ballgame. Why
it is
these things into movies and making them so popular, you know? Is that to kind of program our subconscious mind to these things, so further down the road we might wake up to it, or is there a good intent behind that?
I would say no, and yes, because there could be goodly, godly people within the belly of the beast, like a Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry existed for how many years? Star Trek, the first went 3 years. Star Trek: The Next Generation went 7 years. That's 10 years inside the belly of the beast. So it is possible, and there is possible that some things slip underneath them. But Harry Potter didn't slip underneath them at all. They knew about it. They have to do this stuff, and it all goes back to the Old Testament in the Bible. It all goes back to Nimrod, Queen Ishtar, which is the ridiculous fertility festival of Easter, and their son, which is the Catholic Church's T. It's not a cross. Their T is not a cross, okay? It's not Jesus Christ. You need to understand, folks, the Catholic Church is the greatest representation of the devil. They're the biggest liars. The Jesuits, which is their military arm of the Catholic Church, are the biggest murderers, thugs. They're the mafia. That's the real mafia, is the Jesuits of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is men who are fornicating with all of us and little boys. They are evil running amok on this earth. Their T is Tammuz. So in their upside down model of God, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, which is beautiful, which is up and to the right, which is just beautiful. Their upside down trinity is Nimrod of the Tower of Babel in the Old Testament, Nimrod, Queen Ishtar, and their child Tammuz. And they're all evil. They're all evil, and they're sickening, and it's disgusting, and that's their upside down version. But what did they learn? What were we taught? Is that if you attempt to take heaven by force, the Tower of Babel will be cast to the ground, and Nimrod was cut up into 1,000 pieces. Queen Ishtar took an Easter bonnet, a basket, a woven basket, and she collected up, this is all just an allegorical story, but she collected up all 1,000 pieces, and she put 999 of them in her temple to fertility, which is just to resurrect her husband, Nimrod, to bring him back. And that is, by the way, that's the temple in Ur of the Chaldees, which used to be in northern India. The Temple of the Moon in Ur of the Chaldees. And that is where they do sacrifices to the moon goddess Sin. Sin. That's how they control us, keep us in the left brain. Sin. Emotions ruling our 5 physical senses. Sin. So up and to the right, 6, 7 senses, right? So this is intuition and telepathy. I decoded that incredibly famous song by the band. Written by Robbie Robertson, and it's like most people's favorite song, or one of their favorite songs. Everybody knows the song. Take a load off, Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off, Fanny. Put the load right on me. Me is God. Me is God, and that's the whole purpose to life. Get rid of the junk, your thoughts in the left brain. So let's go quickly to the Bible. Let's go to the New Testament. Let's go to Matthew 6:22. What does Jesus say in 6:22? If thine eye be single, thy whole body will fill with light. That's what we are. We are the optic thalamus, the light of the world, the third ventricle of the brain. And when we raise the chrism oil, this illuminates permanently, becomes the 13th cranial nerve. Remember I said the number 13 is everything. The number 12 is what's important because it gets us to 13. Jesus is 1, and the 12 apostles are the 12. 1 plus 12 is 13. The 13th cranial nerve inside your head, which we don't have yet, we need to make this, is the Jesus Christ nerve. This is the third ventricle of the brain. That becomes the 13th cranial nerve. And this is what connects in real time the metaphysical world to God above and the physical plane of the material below. And we are tied between 2 worlds at once, and we have won because we have risen. That's the whole purpose of our existence, our life. So in the Bible, Jesus says, Matthew 6:22, if thine eye be single, the whole body will fill with light. Okay, then to the completion of that chapter, after 6:22, 5 times, Jesus says, in the preceding verses, says, take no thought for your life. Take no thought. Why 5 times? Why did Jesus die upon a cross, crucified, and he received 5 wounds? Okay, the crucifixion is 4, but he had to be poked in the ribs with a spear for the 5th wound to kill him. Why? Because you're talking about the 5 physical senses. The 5 physical senses, that it's all an allegory. The 5 physical senses must die so that we can then be ruled by the 6th and 7th. So that's what the song The Weight is all about. We take the load off of us and Mother Earth, because that's what we're doing. We dump all of our shit on our sacred mother, right? And the physical earth is in chaos because we dump all of our problems on the sacred feminine. No appreciation for her, no love for her, no respect for her. We just dump all of our problems. What God is saying is, come on home. The prodigal son, come on home, and you put the load right on me. And when you take the load, which is thinking out of the left brain and you put it on God, God thinks for you. And people will go, that's crazy. That's crazy. No, it isn't. How many times are you in a car on the highway going 100, 150 kilometers an hour from Scotland to England, and you just zone out for 2 or 3 minutes and you go, holy, where was I for the last 3 minutes? And I'm driving at 150 kilometers an hour. Where was I?
Cars aren't bashing into each other all the time.
We are meditating, believe it or not. When you're not in the physical, that's what meditation is. So you've just gone to the metaphysical plane. You've gone to another realm. You're not there, but everything still happens because that's what God did. He created this apparatus within us, the physical bone structure, and then the subtle endocrine system to do everything for us. We are an absolute miracle. We don't even have to go through life conscious. Just look at the average human being. They're fast asleep going through life. And yet their lives still function. They have kids. They get a house and a car, and they go on vacations, and they're just asleep the whole time. So the dad who loves his children is driving in the van, and he's got his whole family, his whole precious family. He's just asleep for 5 minutes at the wheel on his way to Yosemite Park with all these windy roads. He's not even there. He's not even there. And people go, Charlie, you're crazy. You have to think. Yeah, no, you don't. That's the great lie. That's what school and religion teach you, is that you must think. No, take no thought. Well, then how do you do anything, Charlie? It's all downloaded to you. It never comes a moment too soon, and it never comes a moment too late. Number 6, again, is here. This is the solar plexus chakra. The solar plexus is the sun, the light from out there in you. And that's where all life comes from. So the birth of true thought is virgin. There was no sex that occurred for virgin thought. This is where the Mother Mary comes from. When you live out of the right hemisphere of the brain, that's Mother Mary, who is immaculate, who had the Immaculate Conception. When you have Mary Magdalene, there's nothing against Mary Magdalene. She's just like all of us. She fell. She's beautiful. She just needs help getting back up. But that is the womb man, womb, W-O-M-B, man, the same thing. We're both men. It's just the womb man and the penis man. That's all it is. And the womb man fell, and she's just living out of her 5 physical senses. That's Mary Magdalene. That's why she's always depicted in red, and she's of the left brain. But she's beautiful, and she wants to rise up. She just needs help from Jesus Christ to rise back up.
In the Matrix, when the woman in the red lady appeared, was that referring to that then?
It absolutely is. It's the temptation. It's the temptation. And that's why, the one guy who falls and betrays them, Judas, that's why it happens right after the lady in red. It's signifying the temptation of Christ, and it's the fall. That's why Jesus had to go into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. The number 40, again, the brilliant Blue Oyster Cult song, Don't Fear the Reaper, one of the greatest songs ever written. And people don't even know what it means. And it's all about death and a suicide club. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's about living forever. The Grim Reaper coming for you is God. God's coming to, it's take the load off Fanny, put the load on me. It's saying, you don't have to live down there. Live up here with me. Here is here.
So here's some questions. In the past, I studied a bit of, shamanism, and I talked to shamans and various people. Over the years, I've heard people talk about something called bifurcation, where it's like a move from, we'll call this 3D to a 5D. Do you think that could be in a not too distant future? And also, these ones that do lift or try to meditate, or at least going in that direction, do we have to be totally pure and like totally alkaline and meditate to make it? And everyone else, do you think they're going to continue this Bill Gates from 1984 world? Will there be a physical split? Is that going to start? Are we going to see people start to disappear? How is that going to manifest? And what do we need to do to make sure we're on the right side of that?
It's a brilliant point, Billy, and thank you so much for bringing it up. And again, this is, and I'm going to continue with this. Sorry, everyone, with Q. I'll complete all of that, but this is Q, and this is what Q teaches, and so the answer is righteousness, and the letter Q is this start of the letters that run to Z, and it's the miracle. Q starts the miracle. The figure Q in Star Trek, that figure who probably most Star Trek fans can't stand because he always seems to get underneath Picard's skin. Yeah, because he's challenging Picard living in his left brain. Q is 1-7. 1 is God, 7 is God intervention. 7 is God reaching out to us. So you said earlier, Billy, like this is what I said to everyone. How can you laugh and ridicule that there's a movement afoot to save us from people who harvest children for a living, for a way of life, to be able to subject us to hell on earth? This stuff is so evil, so sickening. How could there not be a group fighting to bring down these assholes? How could there not? How do you think that this is some kind of fantasy? If it didn't happen, that's impossible. How could this not happen? These people are so sick. So this is the whole thing with Q, the beautiful righteousness of Q. Because what's the next letter after Q? QR. QR. So Q is the 0, is the Ouroboros. Remember, what is the Ouroboros? What you put in, you get out. So if you put in sin, if you eat sin, you're not going anywhere. You're not getting past the letter O. The letter O is also the Ouroboros. OQ. Where does Q come from? NOPQ. O is just before the Q. You're not going anywhere. You're stuck at the letter O until you realize what the letter P means. P is for photon light. Photon, like in Star Trek, they have photon torpedoes. Photon is the light that we generate from within. It's the midnight sun, the midnight oil. How many songs, how many bands have written songs about midnight sun, midnight oil? It's all talking about, that's right, it's all talking about the third ventricle of the brain. When you illuminate the optic thalamus, that's called photon light. The light out there in the sky is electrical light, EL. EL is the light out there, and it's beautiful. It's good. It's what makes everything grow on our earth, but it will not save you. It will not save you because it's out there. It's just teaching you that's what you must do within. That's why Jesus confuses so many people in the Bible when he says that the sinners and the fallen are the ones who think that they are alive and well, celebrating the sun in the sky during the midday. Jesus said, no, you must celebrate the dark sun within you during midday. In other words, he's saying in the Bible that you have to go within and illuminate this sun, the optic thalamus, the third ventricle of the brain. This is your salvation. That's why, folks, in the alphabet, every letter is perfectly positioned. O is the Groundhog Day, the movie. You're not going anywhere until you create photon light. You have to cast your net to the right. You have to cast your net to the right to receive the wisdom from God. And casting the net to the right is helping others, which is you're raising your vibration up into your higher mind. That's where the photon light is. So when you get O and you achieve P, then you get Q. So what's Q? It's the O. It's the Ouroboros. But instead of feeding it sin and going around and never going anywhere, you're feeding it virtue. So you said, do you have to be? You do. You have to be virtuous in every moment. It's what the Aryans are. And I'm going to tell you guys something, and I'm going to just foreshadow this. On May 17th, Josh Santos and I are going to do the podcast on the truth of Adolf Hitler, National Socialist Germany, but it's bigger than that. It's all about Trump. It's all about Q. It's what's going on now. And this is the Aryans versus the Semites. Why is it, folks, that if you hate these fake Jews, because the Bible is the only source of the word Jew, there is no other source. They've tried to create some fake books now that sort of say.
It's just the Ashkenazi Jews that came out from Khazaria. Is that story?
That's right. Because they're attempting to justify a physical, material plane version of the story. The only source for the word Jew is from the Bible. And what does the Bible say about a Jew? It is one who seeks for God inwardly. And circumcision is that of the heart. This is your heart, not here. That's a pump. That's a pump. It's a valve in your chest. This is your heart. This is because heart means hearth, and heart, they mean centrality. The definition of heart and hearth is centrality. This is the center innermost part of your existence, the third ventricle of the brain, which is here and here, right in the exact center. Remember, Santa Claus is right behind it. Mercy seat of God is right behind that. So that's you and who you are. And this is, you know, our sacred journey. And again, it's the letter Q. So when we go up and to the right, then the O of feeding ourselves, sin, going nowhere, changes, because we're feeding ourselves with virtue, helping others, doing virtuous things all the time. That raises us. We get filled with light. That's oil in your lamp. That's where that expression, do you have oil in your lamp, comes from. That's why there's 5 wise virgins. They got into the chamber of the bridegroom with Jesus because they had oil in their lamps. The other 5 foolish virgins who were whores because they were in their left brain and they didn't have enough oil. They didn't have any oil. They couldn't get in. So do you have oil in your lamp? Is there gas in your car? Because that's where everything starts. You can't get past the blood-brain barrier. You can't have crucifixion unless you have P, oil in your lamp, photon light. Photon light, the letter P gives you Q. What's the Q? It's the O with a line to the right, with a line to the right, with a line to the right. That's the completion. So the whole journey continues. R, rising. Who rises? Magnetism rises. That's the scalar wave. This is what Nikola Tesla, that's why they're called Tesla waves. Scalar waves, which are the number 8. They just look like, where does the number 8 start, folks? It doesn't. Where does it end? It doesn't. Why? Because the number 8 is eternal. Guess what? When we harness magnetic energy, that's what Tesla was talking about. Free eternal energy. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Electricity is temporal. What is an electrical wave called? A transverse wave. What does a transverse wave mean? It means temporary. It's a temporal wave. So when we choose to live our life by electricity, we die. We're born and we die. I say to people all the time, you can live forever. And people look at me and they go, you're crazy. Everywhere I look, people are dying. Exactly. Because the people that are living forever, they don't stick around. Remember the episode on Star Trek, Mr. Flint? And he was on this distant planet hiding away from everyone. And who was he? He was Brahms, and he was Da Vinci, and he was all of these famous people throughout history, because he had accumulated wisdom. And what did he finally have to do? He had to leave because he was tired of losing his loved ones, seeing his wife and children. This is what happens when you become alkaline, when you become virtuous, when you become an Aryan out of the right hemisphere of the brain, you will live forever. Why? Because that's what God wants for us. You live forever anyways, but you can live forever in this avatar, in this suit. You can live in this suit forever. All we are cells. What do cells do? They just regenerate. Why do they stop regenerating? Oh, I don't know. Science tells us they get tired. No, cells stop regenerating because you poison them for 60 years. You feed them poison of the mind and of the body for 60 years. Jesus in the Bible makes fun of food all the time. And he calls it shit in Ezekiel. He calls that the food is ridiculed. But Jesus, I'm eating good food. I was eating lentils. Oh, would you like more shit for your lentils? Manna from heaven is not physical food. Manna from heaven is a metaphysical thought. Take no thought. Take the load off Fanny. put the load right on me. Robbie Robertson in the song The Weight is telling you the truth, the way to enlightenment. You get rid of your weight by getting rid of your thoughts and putting the load right on God. And when you do that, you activate the sixth and the seventh. Seventh, right here in the third ventricle, is telepathy. What is telepathy? Telepathy is knowing without having to ask. It's not reading people's mind per se. They twist everything around. Telepathy is knowing, right? What is the enemy of knowing? Believing. Right? The enemy of knowing or gnosis is belief, because beliefs are lies. Beliefs is down here in the root chakra. Somebody else gave you your beliefs, but to know something, you have to earn that. You have to journey, and you have to learn, and you have to learn that. And that's the whole story. So QR is Kundalini rising. That Kundalini is the magnetic Mother Mary rising. And she is a snake coiled 3.5 times. And she uncoils around the spine and she comes up with Jesus. That's why the sacred sex, Billy, is so important. This is what we teach. We're going to be doing a whole series of podcasts on this as we have the time. And this is the sacred, proper white sex, white tantric sex. And what is it? You don't spill your seed. You don't ejaculate out your seed.
You say that, but how do men actually do that? It's quite difficult.
No, it is in the beginning. It is in the beginning because we're taught to let it go, to let it, to just blast it out, and then this is where the allegory for the nuclear explosion is. They're making fun of you having an orgasm. Your semen is your essence. Yeah. There's only two things inside of the spine. The cerebral spinal fluid that's inside your spine that goes up into your skull, into the ventricles, into the 4 ventricles of the cranial body. And there's no blood in that. It's just this cerebral spinal fluid. Well, you know what it is? There's only 2 things that make up cerebral spinal fluid. Semen, which is white, because it's purity, it's God, it's essence, it's you, it's what you are, it's your semen. And that's why it's white, it's pure. And this is how you have immaculate conception. So this is where you can have a baby, is without ejaculating your semen. Oh, Charlie, that's great. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You just don't know this because they don't tell you this. You never see it because they're not going to put it on the freaking news. The news are the worst demons. So you raise yourself and Mary Magdalene at the same time into purity through sacred, pure sex. And that's not turning Mary into a whore. You whore Mary when you ejaculate your semen all over her. When the semen is inside of you, it is alkaline beyond description. When you ejaculate it outside of you, it becomes an acid. If you just watch it, the semen outside of your body is a corrosive acid because it's not meant to contact air. It is never meant to leave you. And so we practice this. Billy, I'm an idiot. If I can do this, you can do this. Anyone can do this. It is just retraining yourself not to let this. You control the spasm. And what is it called? It's called an orgasm. Gasm is spasm. Or is gold. Golden spasm. Okay? The whole point, what does Jesus talk about in the Bible? You have to control yourself. You know yourself so you can control yourself, control your emotions. That's what this is. If you can control the biggest emotion of all, which is this incredible sensation of the orgasm, if you can control it, you're the master. Isn't that what we're supposed to become, right? Doesn't even Oprah Winfrey have a series right now on YouTube, the Master Series, How to Become a Master from the Masters? Everything is about becoming the mast star. What's the mast? It's on a ship. A sailing ship. Who's on a sailing ship? The seeker. Who's the seeker? The one seeking for God. What's the mast? It is the pole in the middle that goes straight up to heaven, right? That signifies the chimney inside of us called the foramen that goes to Santa Claus, where the mercy seat is, where God is. The mast star is one who is in control because he's connected to God. That's the mast pole of any ship. All of these songs about sailing Christopher Cross, his whole first brilliant album, Christopher Cross, every single song is just about meditation. It's all about meditation, right? Ride like the wind. Ride like the wind is when you're finished your day to ride like hell away from the left hemisphere of the brain and go across the border to Mexico. Yeah, that's right. The horizontal divide into the right hemisphere of the brain. All these songs. And then his brilliant song, Sailing. Sailing takes me away to where I want to be. And in the song, what does he say? Heaven is closer than you think. It's just a no thought away. Take no thought, and you drop into heaven upon earth. So they're all just allegories for this entire beautiful process. So R is the rising. We have to rise Mary up through our sacred sex. Don't ejaculate. I'll get into all of this. We're going to write a book on it as well. Explain the whole process to everyone. And by the way, folks, what is one of the magical gifts? I always need more energy because I'm always working hard around here, and I rarely get any sleep because to do the podcast and stuff, I'm staying up all night, and then I have to get up at 6 to feed the animals and stuff every single day. And so some nights I'm just getting 2 hours of sleep. I need more energy. I need more of this stuff. Well, when you orgasm inwardly, by the way, when you orgasm inwardly, where does your semen go? Well, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays in your spine. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. It stays in your spine, but it goes up your spine. It goes up your spine and it rings the bell, the golden bell, which is the pineal gland. The golden bell is your pineal gland. That's what you're designed to do. This is what we are achieving in our beautiful, beautiful saintly sex with each other between Colleen and I. We are ringing the golden bell, and our heads are literally filled with. At the beginning it was golden light, but now it's just white. It's white light. We're seeing white light when we do this. And so what I was going to say to you is that when you don't ejaculate out your semen, one of the incredible gifts is energy. So when you orgasm the other way, I know it was for me. I would assume it's the same for every other guy. When you orgasm outwardly, I was so tired I could barely move, and I felt depressed. I didn't feel good about myself, and I could barely even move. And you have to, because you're ejaculating out your essence. When you keep it inside of you and you raise it up your spine, you're gifted energy. And I find I've got about another 2 hours of energy every single day by doing this a goodly, godly way, a virtuous way, a white way, instead of the wrong way. So R to S. S is the snake, the serpent, the sine wave of the torus field. This is the path the moon makes. Do people not know this? Every 28 days, what path does the moon make? It makes a perfect S. And the sun, every 6 months, what is the shape of the path of the sun every 6 months? It's a perfect S. And then the next 6 months, what is the path of the sun? It is the return journey. And it completes a backward S to make the number 8. And that's what the moon does. You just don't see it. You see half of the journey, the S, and then the double sine wave, which is our torus field, which is our essence, our existence, completes it, and it starts all over again. And this is what Nikola Tesla dropped into. This is what the Tartarians had already known, and Tesla picked up on what the Tartarians left behind.
Also, the controls were free energy healing devices as well, and the organs with sound energy to heal people and things,
Yeah, and that's why when you look at all of that Tartarian architecture, they've always got the great spires going way, way up. That is because at the top of those spires was transmitting energy and information wirelessly. Again, folks, you know what the internet actually is? How is it possible that Billy and I are having this conversation right now in real time? I don't know what I'm going to say next. Billy doesn't know what he's going to say next. And yet in real time, we are doing this. What's this technology? God, it's the ether. It's electromagnetism. It's electricity. We are magnetic electrical beings. We exist in the moment, which is now, immediate. Everything is happening now. They tell you that the sun has beams of light and that the speed of light which these beams of the sun travel, is the fastest thing in the universe and it's a constant, fucking lying to you. The sun is like only 30 something miles away, maybe. I don't even think it's 50 miles away. It is a local phenomenon. That's why when it comes close to you, it feels so freaking hot. When it goes away, things cool down. Same thing with the moon. Do your experience. The moon, the full moon is coming. The full moon is coming again. Stand in the moon with a thermometer. Stand there for 10 minutes. Look at the temperature. Get out of the full moon. Go into the full shade away from the moon. Stand there for 10 minutes. Look at the temperature. There is sometimes as much as an 8 or 9 degree difference between the moonlight and the shade of the moonlight. The moon is cold. Mary, mother, magnetism, coolness. Father, Joseph, pineal gland, electricity, hot. The sun, hot. Sun, and so they each have their own light. I mean, that is the easiest thing in the world to prove with your own science experiment. And I remember somebody telling Joe Rogan that, and Joe Rogan said, are you fucking crazy, man? If you did that experiment and you think you're a scientist by like that, you're a kook. You're a kook. If you did what? Just taking your thermometer in the light of the moon and then the shade of the moon, and you're a kook for doing that? Joe, you're a fucking liar and a shill. Shut up, or I will knock you on.
Joe Rogan.
Oh, just an absolute demon running amok of the left brain. Absolute asshole.
Joe Rogan is quite famous for smoking the dope and all this kind of stuff. And earlier you mentioned about Moses and the cannabis. So what role does cannabis play in all this and the kind of sacred plants of Mother Earth, as opposed to obviously to LSD and cocaine or different types of drugs? The ones from the earth, are they useful in this awakening process? How should we use them?
Yeah, Billy, they absolutely are. But again, they're not the answer. And this is what happens. This is how you know, because the way God created them is that your first experience with them is always your best. And every time after that, the effect is a little less, a little less, a little less. What's the message? The message is you learned what you needed to learn, now move on. And what happens when you take a psilocybin mushroom? What happens when you take mescaline? What happens when you take pure cannabis, really, really good and pure cannabis? It takes you inwards. What your people always talk about, the mother, sometimes people talk about the father, and they're connecting with Mother Earth and whatnot, but they're always seeing it through darkness, through inside, going within. That's what it does. It's teaching you, telling you to go within, and you do that by stilling the mind, which is meditation. So very famously, again, if one of these substances work for you, that's picking up the phone and going, God, how are you doing? Great. Oh, you're there, are you? Okay, thanks. Well, you know what? I'll just hang up and I'll come see you. And that's what it is. Once you learn that God is within you, hang up the phone and then do it yourself.
Came up with that one, yeah.
Yeah. And the God says in the Bible that his favorite holy sacrament is the sweetness of the cannabosum. Cannabosum is cannabis. And what they used to do in the ancient churches and in these ancient monasteries and seminaries were teaching young men about white tantric sex, about not to ejaculate out your semen. It's the whole, and they were teaching about the Immaculate Conception, how you can actually have a child without transmitting through the physical semen.
So it's all possible. Elysian Mysteries. There was women there who theoretically they never had any men and they could produce a baby.
What was that, Billy?
The Elysian Mysteries was a group of women who I think they could give birth without being with a man.
Absolutely, yeah, that's right. It's just the Virgin Mary, and all it requires is having the perfect orgasm, which is connecting with the Father within, and that is producing this ultimate sensation. Because remember, what the orgasm does, what it's designed to do, and that's why you feel it for 3 or 4 seconds when you ejaculate outwards. It's the sensation runs all the way up into your skull, and it's hitting your pineal gland, and that incredible feeling that you have for just a few seconds for most people, that is the ringing of the golden bell. The ringing of the golden bell is the activation of the pineal gland, but it doesn't last because it's only for 3 or 4 seconds. So when you sustain, so I'm going to tell you this, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, because it's not the ultimate point of this experience. But when Colleen and I are practicing the what we call unity consciousness sex, or white tantric sex, I'm able to orgasm unlimited times. I think the most that I've done is, I think, 8 or 9 times. How is that possible? Because I'm not spilling my seed, and the whole point is that I'm in control. So when you feel the orgasm starting, when you feel that incredible rush of power and you're not going to be able to control it, and you're not, that's when you must follow the protocols. Okay, so you're going to pull out of your partner for a period of time, so that there's no friction. A, B equals C, so there's no friction. And then what you're doing is you're just concentrating, because both you and your partner are concentrating on the beauty of God, the beauty of helping others, the feeling that you get when you help others, the feeling of what it's like to be virtuous, of living a goodly, godly life. This is what you're thinking of. So you're not thinking of some pornography or some hot chick on a pornographic site. No, you're thinking literally of helping others. You're thinking of what it feels like to be patted on the back by God by doing what's right, going to the right. And then when you do this and you pull out, you're able to control the spasm. So the spasm does not go up through the penis. It stays in the spine. And then when you stop it, it reverberates up the spine. And every time you do it, it goes higher and higher and higher. When we first started, we were getting it to a solar plexus and then the heart. And it stayed at the heart for a while. Then we got to the throat, the blood-brain barrier. Once we did that, the next time it just went whoosh, and it went right up to the third eye, and the whole head was just filled with light. First was golden light, now it is white light, and actually the last number of times I've been getting purple light, which is telling us that that's activating the crown chakra, which is the purple rain. So this is incredible stuff, and the whole point of life is to become the masked star. We're all stars. Do you want to be a Monstar, moon star, letting emotions rule over you? Or do you want to control your emotions? So again, this is Star Trek, this is Spock, and this is Dr. McCoy. Spock is probably abstaining from sex, which you don't want to do. You need to have sex. It's very important. It's very goodly. It's not bad. Sex is a 3-letter word, not a 4-letter word. It's very good, but Spock is sex going within. Dr. McCoy is angry at ejaculating, and you're taking your frustrations out on your partner. That's turning your wife or your girlfriend into a whore. Allegorically, you're turning your wife or your girlfriend into a whore when you ejaculate your frustration and your anger and your energy and your essence all over them. That's not what you want to do. So that's this incredible process. QRST. T is the crucifixion. That's here. That's here. And the only way that anything in the human body can get through the blood-brain barrier into the skull is through this hypoglossal nerve and the hypoglossal opening, which directs us into the brainstem. So how do you get from the spine to the brainstem? Is through this miraculous creation of the hypoglossal opening of the brainstem through what is called the vagus nerve, or the pneumogastric nerve. And where the pneumogastric nerve on the right hand side connects into from near the spine into near the brainstem, it creates a cross. That's what happens. So when you rise up into heaven, you first have to go through the cross. That's what crucifixion is. It doesn't mean somebody being nailed to a cross. That never happened. That's not what it's about. You don't get nailed to a cross. Crucified means that you let go of your left brain and you rise up into heaven, which is your right brain. And to do that, you have to rise up through the spine, but it will not get you there because Atlas is there, the 33rd capstone, which is very strong. Atlas is incredibly strong, and it's the capstone, the 33rd vertebrae of the human spine. And you have to go around, you have to be clever, and you have to go around Atlas. And you do that through the pneumogastric or the vagus nerve. The vagus is for vagabond. Vagabond is one who wanders around aimlessly. What did I say earlier? We are all the prodigal son or prodigal daughters. What does the prodigal son do? He leaves the father and he wanders aimlessly, his aimless path, which wanders everywhere. Yeah, because that's an allegory for the vagus nerve that wanders all the way down within us before coming back up on the right-hand side. When you cross over at the T, that's the miracle. That's the letter U. What did Professor Tolkien say when Frodo, Gollum fell into Mount Doom with the ring? The eucatastrophe occurred. The eucatastrophe. The letter U is the Eucharist or eucatastrophe. It is the miracle. It is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It is the resurrection of man for all eternity at the right-hand side of God. And truth be told, it's really kind of the ending of our story is this QRSTU, because the U is the eucatastrophe. But we want to know what happens to all the key players. We want to know the epilogue to the story. So please, God, continue. Please continue and tell us what happens to everyone. So that's why it goes to V, W, X, Y, and Z. That's the end of the story. So U is the eucatastrophe by the crucifixion. Okay, this is what Q and Trump and this whole beautiful movement is all doing. They're playing out really the resurrection of Jesus Christ in plain sight. So U, okay, then UV. V is for the womb. It is the womb of the sacred feminine, right? So everything is the yin and yang, above and below. So the pyramid is a diamond. Above you see the penis, but below the ground is the negative space of the penis, which is the womb, and that creates a diamond shape. That's what happens to the pineal gland when we use it. It turns from a wasteland of sand into a hardest substance known to man, a diamond. Talks about it in the Bible as well. All of the ancient texts, they talk about it. Hardening of the pineal gland when you use it into a diamond, and that's the diamond inside of us. So that's the V is, so once we crucify, the eucatastrophe occurs, then we exalt the V here. So now the V, instead of down here in the root Muladhara chakra birthing children, why does it hurt when we birth children? So we're not supposed to have children that way. I'm sorry if that bugs people or offends people, but it's the truth. Why is the entire process of a physical ejaculation, outward semen, and a baby, why is that whole experience pain beyond description? And then what do people say about their child? They love their children, but raising them was like torture. And then they grow up to hate us. Why do we do this? If they grow up to hate us, why do we and disconnect from us? Why are we doing it? We're doing it the wrong way. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. There's a right way and a wrong way. The non-semen, non-outward ejaculation, immaculate conception, that birth, there's no pain. You can have a real baby and there's no pain. This is what they all talk about in the ancient scriptures, no pain. It's a painless process because you're going through God. Take the load off Fanny and you put the load right on God. He'll do the rest. It's a miracle. So that's the letter V. Then comes the W. What's the W? The W is still the V, but now there's a penis in the middle. See that? So that's the V for the W, and in the middle, there's the penis. The penis is the father in the mother. This is A and B. This is father and mother, masculine and feminine. And together, they create, we've won. We are winners, and we have won when we unite the Father and the Mother. That's the whole point of this journey for us. Jesus ascending is to help others, is to help Mary to rise from being the whore Mary Magdalene to come back up to being the sacred, beautiful, feminine Virgin Mother in heaven again. It's beautiful. That's the W, the Father in the Mother. Okay? UVWX. What does X represent? This is the perfect balance and unification of two worlds. So this is the Mother, who's of the material, earthly, physical plane, with the Father, who is of the higher metaphysical plane. And they are together now as one, and they make the X. The X always marks the spot. That's why if you're looking for treasure, X marks the spot. That's what you're looking for, because the treasure is returning the mother to the Father, and they get married, and you're there to see it all happen. So then you are their product. So remember, we talked at the beginning, the letter C, we are the child, and it's the empty cup looking to God in the east, to the sun rising in the east. Well, now that C becomes the Y. So now we come into the picture. The V, the mother, the W is mother and the Father. X is the mother and the Father in perfect harmony and balance, and they produce Y. And Y is us. And we now have two walls, left and a right, and they're both exalted up to heaven, and we create a cup. And guess what? When your cup is always open, exalted to the sky, your cup runneth over. And what does it runneth over with? Everything that is goodly and godly from God. Your cup runneth over. That's why. And then the end of the story is the letter Z. And the Z, the mark of Zorro or Zoroaster, the great astrologer who decoded the night sky for us in ancient Persia to Babylon, to Greece, to Egypt, to Rome, to Europe, to the New World, the transition of this true Christianity. All Christianity began with Zoroaster, Zorro, because Zoroaster decoded the night sky. Why? The night sky is you. The night sky is Christianity, the Father, the Mother, and the child. And so the end of the story is the mark of Zorro. That's why in the movie he does the mark of Zorro. What do you have to do to achieve a Z? A top line, God. A line rising up and connecting the two lines, the child, and at the bottom on the material plane, the mother. Father, child, mother. And it is perfect balance and harmony, because the Father and the Mother are united.
Right, but if you'd like to continue, Charlie, we're at Z with the Z, mother, father, and the child connection.
Yeah, so again, the reason I mention all of that is so important, because that's us. It's our journey. It's our sacred journey. It's the one story in all the nursery rhymes. It's what all these great bands were singing about. It's what all the great authors were writing about. They're writing about the alphabet, A to Z. It's what it is. And it's a story really of the unicorn, the white unicorn. And that's what that novel and movie are about, the last unicorn. We are the last unicorn, and we have to live, folks. We cannot let the magic die out and just settle and compromise for being less. So once again, magnetism is eternal. Electricity is temporal. What do we have in our world, Billy? How do you know there's a conspiracy? Everything is a massive conspiracy. Our whole world is electricity, electrical. They don't even teach you about magnetism in university. Why? People don't know anything about magnetism. Why? Because it's the answer. What will happen when we give the poorest of peoples a generator that can tap into these eternal scalar waves of the number 8? What will happen? These people who we have pushed their heads and into the dirt and the mud with our heels of our boots, the ones we've treated the worst, the Africans and Latin Americans and Southeast Asians and all of these people, and the natives, the Aboriginal peoples, the first peoples, all these people we've treated the worst. When we give them free energy, they're going to soar past us sorry asses in the Western world, because we don't know how to do anything anymore. They're forced to fend for themselves. They're clever. They're very clever. And you give them free energy, You give them the ability to pump water to themselves, so they've now got eternal energy, and they can make refrigeration, and they can pump water to themselves. Oh my goodness, these people are going to rise so far above us so quickly. We are all going to be looking to these people going, help us, please help us, help us. I donated $12 once to a telethon for you back in 1987. So please help me, please. I sent money.
Bob Geldof told me to.
It went to that's right. But it went to UNICEF, which means you didn't get it. But yeah, because those are all lies. It's horrible, just horrific. So that's that one story. It's brilliant. It's a miracle. Now that's what Q is all about. Q is all about the number 17, 17. So in Star Trek, we go back again to that character Q. That's how you know Roddenberry's a white hat. That's how you know Roddenberry's tied to the Kennedys. That's how you know Roddenberry and the Kennedys are tied to this goodly godly movement. They are foreshadowing the character of Q. And again, Billy, what we were talking about, how do you know that God is involved in all of this? He's had enough with all of it. That's right. Well, we have to exalt God. We have to ask God by going within. So enough of us have done that now God is, because you pray out there. That's the famous passage in the book, Matthew chapter 6:6, very famous, Matthew 6:6. When you pray, enter into thy closet. What does Jesus say? When you pray on the corner in your best clothes where other people can see you, and you use words, outward words, God doesn't hear a thing. And you are a fool, and you're a sinner, and you will be lost. You're a heathen. God calls them heathens. When you go to connect with God, you enter into your closet and you shut the door. That's what it says. Enter into the closet, shut your door. Third ventricle of the brain, meditation, going within, stillness and silence, what it's all about. So when enough of us have done this and we've said, please God, help us, help these children. Oh my God. Colleen and I have cried so much tears as we found out all of this, that it's overwhelming. So I want to share this with you right now, Billy. This is going to blow you and I think the listeners away. It's unbelievable, and this is absolutely true. China, after World War II, why did China get taken over by the communist dictator Mao Zedong, and then the door was shut and foreigners didn't get into China? You go to Hong Kong, some people got permits to go to Shanghai, but nobody got to go inland of China, right? Am I right? Right? This really happened, folks. China was shut off to us. Okay. What's the next thing we heard after World War II? Next narrative. See if they piece together. We began hearing that China's population was out of control. There were so many people in China. There was more people in China than the rest of the world. So many people, and they couldn't even move around. And of course, if you went to Hong Kong or Shanghai, you'd go, yeah, that's crazy busy. But if you go inland, there's nothing but land. There's very few people. You can't even, they're lying to you. But Hong Kong is a good reflection of there's so many Chinese and 1 billion Chinese or 2 billion or whatever, and it's overflowing. So that came out. Then in the 1970s, what came out? We heard that the Chinese government passed a law limiting households, families, to 1 child. Okay. Well, these are poor families, purposefully kept poor by these gatherers of the Mao Zedong regime. Mao Zedong is an idiot. He's a mafia thug, nothing more. And he wasn't in charge. He's just a figurehead. But they were allowed 1 child. And because they worked on the farm and they were poor, they needed someone strong. So they needed male children. So when these families had girls, they didn't want that. So they broke the law and they had sex again. And they kept trying until they got a boy. Well, what happened?
They killed the child, not the daughter.
What's that?
They did not kill the daughter.
Yeah. So we were told the tale suddenly in the late 70s, early 80s. We now got told this tale that because of this, there were so many baby girls that were being thrown out by Chinese families because it's against the law to have them. They were just throwing them into the Yellow River, the Yangtze River, which just meanders and winds through the mainland of China. And they were throwing this. There were so many babies. You went to the Yangtze River, and that's all you'd see. You just see dead female babies washing by. Well, when the world is being ruled over by vampires who exist through adrenochrome, it sure seems an awful waste to just throw away these children who could be harvested for adrenochrome. Bing, bing, bing. Horror of horrors. Who controlled Mao Zedong? Same people that rule over us. The Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Semites, these evil people who live in the left hemisphere of the brain, and they don't think that this is horrible, horrific stuff that brings Colleen, brings us to our knees and moves us. It just destroys us to hear these things that are being done to our precious children. And it doesn't to them because there's no mother in them. They're in the left brain. There is no mother in the left brain. There's only the penis. They only exist out of the penis, thrusting and thrusting and thrusting until they get what they want. And so this whole thing about China is a lie, folks. They lied to you. What China became after World War II, the number one product of China after World War II is adrenochrome. They turned China into a factory for planting and harvesting children for adrenochrome. So they lied to you. And the truth is, what they were saying to these families in the small villages, that they were giving them monetary bonuses for having more children. So we're told the story there because of the population problem, that only one child. And then there were these famous bullshit authors on the New York Times bestsellers list writing books. I went to China and I saw all these babies in the yellow. Trust me, it's all true. It's all true. Trust me. Right? And if you question me, it's all peer reviewed. So I've got my professors and these other universities going to protect me because we're all liars and we have to protect each other. So that's the lie. And that's what they sold us. And it's not the truth at all. You go to inland China. I haven't been, but you go to inland China and it's just wide open spaces. You just take a look at imagery that you can with planes and drones now going over the inland of China. It's just massive open space. You can't see people anywhere. So it's not a population problem. So they were actually giving bonuses to families and villages to have more children. And then they would keep a boy. That's great. We want everyone else. And of course, it works great for them because girls, the feminine, is more easily frightened, and it you can achieve a higher level of fear, therefore higher hormonal secretions in the feminine than you can in the masculine. So they actually love and prefer baby girls over baby boys because they get a higher content quality of the product that they're looking for. And so from after World War II, this is what they did. And Wuhan is simply the center. This is why they unleashed the coronavirus out of Wuhan. Wuhan's their capital for the adrenochrome industry. And then what did we find? We found in the protocols of this factory that is apparently the source of the coronavirus in Wuhan, in their corporate protocols, they state in plain sight for everyone to see that their number one product and export is adrenochrome. It's all there. It's all there in plain sight. Just go on the internet, see it for yourself.
As we talked before, there's supposed to be synthetic adrenochrome, but obviously I find it hard to imagine how you can make that. So
that's right.
So basically, the American government, Obama and stuff, and Trump has always been talking about we've sold out to China, basically. Does it just mean that this child trafficking and this group of people who for some reason get off on this adrenochrome, they're everywhere in the top echelons of society?
Yeah. And
China's just been there to provide all this and make it grow, really. And now enough's enough kind of thing. So this is why Trump and the military, obviously, behind him, have decided China's, he's pointing the finger at China quite a lot. He's not coming out explicitly saying these things because he has to play the game to a certain extent. But Yeah, we should. I think people in the world are now getting a different perception of what's been going on in China and the role that China really has to play. There's a guy called Cyrus. Have you heard of him? He talks about the AI. I forget a second name. And he's basically saying that there's different types of AI in the world. Do you know anything about this? Like China's got an AI and America's got an AI, and this artificial intelligence. How's that going to tie in with everything? Do you know much about that?
No, the thing about the artificial intelligence is that the thing that people need to remember, it's the same thing like I told everyone earlier about cloning. Don't get caught up in stuff. God is the creator and there's only God. And so this is the thing. Don't fear so much. Stop fearing. And this is the thing about knowing yourself and about becoming strong by going within and learning the truth, connecting to God, taking the load off Fanny and putting the load on God is you're strong. So that see, this is the thing that's so funny, is that you have the whole world and probably the worst offenders in America of covering themselves in plastic bags because a mask is not enough, and they're literally going to the stores and the boy in the bubble in these stores. These are probably the literalist Christians, the ones that are supposed to love God so much, and they're always the worst offenders at what? Doubting God. So here's the thing. God is everything. God is great. God is great. But he just didn't do a good job with our immune systems. Yeah. We need modern science when it comes to immune systems. We need vaccinations and we need foreign substances, and we need, AI, artificial electronic technology jabbed within us, because God just didn't know. God's bad at money and God's bad at viruses. I don't know why. But he just is. So we need to give God money. What would he do with the money? I don't really know. And then we have to help God out by handing our bodies over to doctors. And remember, we have a capitalist system. So your family's starving and you'll earn money if you inject people with the vaccine. People do the craziest shit for money to survive. So that's what's happening here, folks. A lot of good people have turned dark and evil and justify it because, hey, I'm just trying to feed my family. No, not good enough. Not good enough at all. So AI I think is massively overhyped. Absolutely overhyped. We don't have time to get in it today, but on another show, I can explain to you. Do you remember when Trump made the supposed mistake about trying to Twitter coffee, but instead he said covfefe?
Yeah.
Covfefe. Covfefe. CO, cobalt. V is chromium vanadite, and Fe is iron.
Was that no for the cure? He was trying to drop a hint in.
Do a little research on those three elements. Do a little research. Chromium, vanadite. Yeah, chromium vanadite is adrenochrome. And iron, when you abuse adrenochrome, all these users with adrenochrome, because it's so harsh, it takes all the iron out of your system. It's easy to tell who's an adrenochrome user. You just have to take their blood. You have to just take their vampire blood. Why are vampires always needing more and more blood? It's just vampires don't exist. It's an allegory for adrenochrome, who prey upon us and who eat us, who drink our blood, our essence. Vampires are always low on blood. They're always low on iron. That's how you can tell someone who's abusing adrenochrome. It's because they have severely low iron counts. So chromium, vanadite, and iron, and cobalt blue. All three of these things are telling you in plain sight. And that was Trump sending a message to all of these minions that have power because they're hooked on adrenochrome. That was Trump tweeting before it all started, saying, "We're coming for you. We're coming for you." because we know you're suffering through cobalt, vanadite, and iron. We know you vampires, and we're coming for you vampires. And they must have shit when they saw that. And that tweet, for some reason, was one of the biggest tweets in the history. Why? People don't know what it means and stuff. But it
Well,
became the biggest retweeted in the history of all of Trump's many tweets. Is the
they try and ridicule Trump all the time and make him out to be stupid, so they're just saying, oh, he can't even spell it. Same with the one with disinfectant a couple of days ago. We could get into loads more, Charlie. I appreciate your time. That's almost coming up for 3 hours, or 2.5 hours anyway. We've been chatting. And still probably didn't get into the stuff where we're going to talk about at the start. Anyway, I appreciate your time. If you ever want to come back and have a chat, you're more than welcome anytime. I really love your stuff, and I appreciate the contribution you're making towards humanity. And I'm looking forward to the meditation podcast you've got coming up, because I used to meditate. I used to study Buddhism and stuff like that, and I fell out of it. I still think I need to do it, but it'd be good to have you kind of like, this is what you need to do kind of thing. And the same with the vegan diet. I'm quite interested in that. I never ate much meat when I was in Turkey. I came back to Scotland. I was at my mother's house. She was feeding me it, so I started eating it. I'm weaning myself off it now, but the stuff in the supermarkets, I'd like to know what to eat, things like this. And if it's just fruit, is that fruit good enough? We can talk about this another thing, but I appreciate you, educating people on the truth, basically, because it's sorely lacking in today's society. And anyone out there that watches the mainstream news and believes the coronavirus and is anti-Trump, I just suggest you go and watch Charlie's podcast, go and research QAnon. The more people that find out about this, and the more we can share it amongst each other, the better for everyone, really, because we need to wake up, is the bottom line. And I see just too many people insanely asleep, and it's just frustrating as hell when I'm on Facebook these days. I don't know how you feel, but there's a long way to go for most people to come. So hopefully, maybe if Trump can put these things out in the forefront once the arrests happen, people will be forced to catch up, and we can create a better world somewhere down the line,
Yeah, and Colleen and I are going to pursue this. And I just wanted to quickly, I'll just end with this, Billy, is that just a couple of days ago, we were actually contacted by someone within the Q operation and the Q movement. And they were just simply saying that they had discovered what we started to talk about and what we were saying, and that they sort of made a general comment that we deal in the truth, and there's so much disinformation or misinformation about what's going on, because a lot of people, they don't know the truth. They haven't balanced the two worlds. So basically, this person said that we'd, Q sent me, and we'd like to open up a channel of communication and dialogue with you. Would you be interested in doing that? And we said absolutely. So what we're going to look to do is a series of podcasts with this individual, and yeah, we're going to be able to go deep within what's really going on, what the movement is all about, what's been happening, what is happening, and what is supposed to happen, like Jasara and Nasara. And this
people go and watch the documentary called War Castles. It's about a 10-part series. It goes into Russell J. Gold and David Wynn Miller, what they've done. And Russell J. Gold, what he went through and what he done is absolute heroic and real heroic.
Yep.
So anyway,
so we're going to continue to do this, and we're going to share this and get this information out, and that's what it seems like. That's what they're interested in, is that what they want to do is they want to tie the beautiful spiritual message in to what's happening with all of the physical stuff. And then this is what Colleen and I felt about Q and about Trump. And then this is what we were corroborated with just over the last couple of days. The stuff, Billy, that we've heard is incredible. And it's justifying all the things that we've been saying. And so they're talking about Trump, like you were saying, they're talking about Trump, righteousness, like you can't even imagine how caring and how righteous this individual is. And of course, that's not what we see through the mainstream media. It's not what we're being told. It's not what we see, which makes perfect sense for our upside down world. So that's coming Monday, the meditation podcast. Again, I want to help people. All these books on meditation, they lead you nowhere because they're lying to you, and they're saying, you know, you have to do 111 mantras to be able to enter it. How can you even remember if you're on 93 or 98 or everything that they tell you about the necessary to say a mantra or whatever? No, that's taking you away from the whole purpose. The purpose of meditation is stillness and silence. I'll teach you how to do that, and I'll tell you, once you do that, you don't have to do anything else. I don't need to tell you anything, and you won't need me anymore. You'll be able to discover all your own truth, all on your own, by going within. And I think that's what a real teacher and master should do. Is it should say that you should fly away from me, and that you should become better and greater than me. And that's what I hope to achieve through like the meditation podcast, is to help people to elevate to a higher level, and you'll do greater things than I.
Yeah, well, if everyone was meditating and we all had a good intent, you know, behind us, the world would be a good place, you know, instead of fighting the forces, it seems like every day, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for your time, Charlie. It's been an honour and a pleasure, and I hope to catch up with you again soon. I'll be definitely checking into the podcast.
Thanks, Billy. Thanks.
Freaksense TV, folks. Check out Freaksense TV on YouTube.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.
Cheers. Catch you later. Bye-bye.